Welcome everybody! It's finals night. It is the last night of VCS for 2023, and we have GAM, the Eternal Kings, taking on the new challengers of Team Wales. My name is Carrick. With me are the loveliest Germans I've ever met, Yulwei and Crincy. Crincy, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling great. Glad to be back for my first and last appearance of the split in the VCS English, of course. My boy Artemis has done it. He's here in the finals. Of course, there were like some circumstances that might make it not so happy for me overall, but I'm just happy to see him again and hope we have a good finals on our hands with GAM facing off against the Wales.
And you, Yulwei, how are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty hot, to be honest. It's the sun is right in my face, but that's
we
great because we're warming up for the final, right? So yeah, I'm getting in the mood already.
Oh, he's hot and in the mood. So this is going to be a good series, I'm sure. There's a lot to talk about. I think we can sort of just jump straight into how these two teams' splits have been, because they've had opposite trajectories in a way. GAM had a bit of a slow start, something they actually do fairly often at this point, sort of start slow and then really build, while Wales were the opposite. They had this meteoric first round robin. They were undefeated, obviously including beating GAM, and then they lost everything. So Yulwei, I'll go to you first to talk a bit about GAM. How's their split been, and how do you rate them coming into tonight?
So we consulted some of our experts behind the scenes, right? And there was one very accurate sentence to describe their split, and that is GAM, the underwhelming first place. And this is something we've kind of brought up a few times ago. We talked about the fake 14-0, where we all agreed that this was the weakest 14-0 we'd ever seen. But they were 14-0, and once again, you can't fault them for being first place, but it's still a bit underwhelming. They actually have the lowest ever series win rate for a first place team, which sounds pretty bad, but then again, it's 75%, so it's not actually that low. It just shows you how dominant all the other splits of GAM, or even some of the Flash splits or the Cerberus split, were usually for the first place team. So this team is a little bit more with the rest of the teams, right? With the crowd. So they were the first place team, but not until I believe it was week 6 or maybe week 5. They overtook Team Wales after Wales had an amazing start to the whole split, as Crincy is probably going to talk about in just a second. So GAM just outlasted them in the end and barely got to the final, just barely eked out Team Secret, who for some reason saw the Aurelia play and it was not the play. But GAM just in the end, you have to say they're the most consistent team. They're not the most explosive or most aggressive team anymore in the VCS. That's other teams now. Team Secret comes to mind. Saigon Buffalo comes to mind. And of course, Wales as well. But they're still the most consistent. They have the best players to consistently perform and win 3 out of 5 games. And that's why they're here.
Yeah, and of course, going straight to you, Crincy, as Yulwei alluded to, I'm going to get you to talk about Wales's split, which was very, very different.
Yeah, it was very different. Starting off pretty hot, I would say. I mean, starting 8-0 is not something that any team can do. I mean, there's only a single team that can be undefeated in the first round robin, and Team Wales absolutely were. The win against GAM was a pretty close one, I gotta say. I mean, at least GAM took a game against them, so that's at least something that they can write home about. But then it went downhill pretty surprisingly fast, I gotta say. Like, I mean, we know top teams sometimes tend to struggle, especially if they are not that experienced, but Wales really went downhill pretty quickly. Losing against GAM, of course, seems understandable. It's still GAM, right? I mean, even if they are only in second place, you can lose to them. But they went 0-5 in the remaining games, then went to playoffs. Were about to be like eliminated pretty quickly there as well. Had a very, I gotta say, underwhelming best of 5 against, I think it was Team Secret of all teams. And yeah, now just a little bit before they were on the brink of elimination, they started to regain steam, and now they're here. And for the first time, they will be at Worlds.
Yeah, that they will. It's worth mentioning that both of these teams have already locked in their ticket to South Korea. But these teams do care about their domestic placing. GAM are extremely proud of the fact that they've had the trophy/shield for 3 straight years, not including a Mickey Mouse split. It's been pretty crazy. So they definitely want to continue that. And Wales really, really wants to break that dominance and really assert themselves as the new kids on the block, the new real contenders out of Vietnam. And speaking of a real contender, there's actually one player I want to focus in on. I'm kind of blindsiding you two with this, but hopefully you can follow up. Glory has a team. From the Burst the Sky days, I'm going to go to you, your way, because we've cast too many Glory games where he has tried so hard and just fallen apart. He has a team. Does Vietnam have a good mid laner, finally?
Let's see what he does internationally. He does look like the most talented individual player. I think he's still a bit streaky. He can still have very up and down performances, but he does have that certain X factor that we're all looking out for in mid laners. That kind of the whole generation of the last, 4 or 5 years of VCS mid laners has been sorely lacking, and especially we have seen it in international play, especially where Carty, our best mid laner over the course of the last 5, 6, 7, 8 splits, just looked completely out of his league, outmatched. So hopefully Glory can step up on the international stage. One thing I was really impressed with Glory, especially now in the player series, is his Ahri and the Ahri Vi combo of Glory and Beanjay. And this is somewhat outdated if you think about Ahri Vi. We don't really see it too much in other leagues. It was played, I think, 3-4 patches ago, very constantly. Everyone was going for the Vi Ahri combo, but nowadays it's not really the go-to strategy anymore. But those two players have looked amazing in their coordination, especially around team fights. Not so much about laning phase, as we have our first look at the stage. GAM is getting ready. But I'm definitely looking forward to Glory and Beanjay bringing a little bit of fire to this best of 5 with their early game aggression, with invades and just CC chains through the Ahri Vi jungle mid combination.
Now, we do have more to talk about, but I need to get us all on the record because I'm not too sure how far away from draft we are. We might be getting close. We need some predictions. And I think both of you have decided to be boring today. How have we all predicted?
Yeah, that's how we predicted. It actually pains me to predict like this because, I mean, of course, Artemis is my man. Like, I was back from the Cerberus Mickey Mouse winter split days. Like, I cheered this guy on because he was just built different and absolutely gapping these other AD carries. And he kind of isn't anymore to some extent, I would say. Like, he himself fell off a little bit. He's now playing without B today, which is very sad because it would be B against his former team, which is definitely a storyline that kind of writes itself, right? And that definitely hurts them in their whole prospects to win the series overall. And I just gotta go with the Boeing favorite over there. But I still think Team Wales can win one game, so I predicted for you 2-1.
Your way, you don't have any faith that they can even pick up a game.
So I would have given them 1, maybe even 2 games if B was there, and we have seen B's impact on teams. We should focus on B being absent today in just after our predictions, of course, just talk about that big element. But yeah, we saw GAM without B last year, and it was a disaster. They looked horrible when their shot caller, their main leader in game, was missing. Now, we don't quite know how big of a voice he is in this team. I think Artemis is quite a big voice as well. I think Beanjay and Glory probably lead some of the game as well. So it might not be the biggest of differences, especially because their macro, honestly, hasn't been anything special. They essentially just play ARAM after 20 minutes. So you don't really need to support a shot call you into an ARAM position. But I still feel like this change makes them or brings them down from like a 35% underdog to a 20% underdog. And I feel like 20% in every game, you could win a game, but it's more likely you don't. So I think it's a 3-0.
Well, I predicted Wales 3-2 because I think Wales are pretty good.
Sure you did.
Good take. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's it. I think they're
Yeah.
pretty good. I think Artemis is a good AD carry. Yeah. Sure. Anyway, let's go back to what Your Way was saying, because that is something to really worth noting. B is out tonight. Apparently, he is dealing with some health issues. Given that they've already qualified for Worlds, you need to make sure he's in tip-top physical shape before you go traveling, before you do go international. That's really important. but it's a huge blow for Wales. You always already alluded to it a bit, so we'll go to you, Quincy. How do you see that really impacting this matchup?
Pretty terribly, I gotta say. I mean, that sounds pretty blunt, right? But we just need to make a deeper dive on how few games CBL actually played recently, right? He is 4-0 this year. I mean, to be fair to him, and played 4 different champions, but one of those champions was Edge Support, and that kind of speaks volume to one fact, and that is that he didn't play for a long time. Those 4 games were in March and April of this year, and before that, since he was not a starter, his last actual games as a starter were actually in August of 2022. So aside from those 4 outlier games that he actually ended up winning against Box and Team Flash respectively, he basically didn't play for a full year on the competitive stage, and that is a huge contrast to what B usually is, which is like at least like no matter how you rank him, he's like one of the top supports of the league, and yeah, he was on GAM recently for a reason, and bot lanes tend to be carried more by the support than by the AD carry itself, usually. So that is definitely a huge blow to especially Artemis and this one huge win con that Team Wales usually would have.
Yeah, I think that's really the big thing, is that looking down the rift, you've got, top lane, it's Kiaya. Let's be honest. He's just an incredible player. I think you have to say he's probably going to win. He doesn't necessarily play a super lane dominant style, but I think he's the better top laner on the day. Levi is Levi. Don't even need to talk about it. Mid lane, I actually kind of give over to Glory, but I think, as Quincy said, the big win condition for Wales is Artemis. Of course, it's Artemis. Of course, that's the win condition. But not having the support that he has, that built synergy, having B next to him, I think it's a huge blow. Yue, how do you think they overcome it if they can?
So, actually, looking at their playoffs matches, I'm not sure if Artemis really is their main carry anymore. I agree that he is the star name, right? And I'm a huge Artemis fan as well. But if you just look at the series against Saigon Buffalo, for example, a 5-game series, they had to fight tooth and nail to get out of that one. It was BeanJ and Lori that made the difference in all those games, what I talked about earlier, right? The Ari Vi just isolating Shogun, absolutely amazing CC control and CC chaining, and Artemis was just there to auto attack. And he did well. He didn't play badly, but he wasn't special or anything. So maybe if we have another really good BeanJ and Lori series, they could actually paper over some of the issues in the bot lane. And I mean, CBL, he's not bad in lane. We have no idea what his current form is. That is my main concern. But if CBL looks all right in lane, I think they could get to a position where BeanJ and Lori maybe have their series of their lives. And finally, BeanJ overcomes Levi in a best of 5 in a final. And they carry through mid and jungle. Sparta is pretty stable in the top lane. I think Kiaya is the better player, for sure, on average. Like, just in every aspect of the game, he's just better. But not in a way where he's going to solo kill him 5 times. Sparta is going to be fine in top lane. So for me, it comes down to mid jungle domination if Team Wales were to win today.
I actually kind of agree with that statement. I mean, Artemis is less of an outstanding carry than he was in the Cerberus days, for sure. I mean, for now, Team Wales is kind of a multi-threat team, and that, of course, speaks in their favor. BeanJ and Glory, you just mentioned, I want to talk a little bit about Sparta as well, because I could see on the current patch situation, with this disgusting Duskblade Aatrox build-ups that he sometimes plays, that he could actually overthrow Kiaya a little bit. Maybe they actually intentionally leave open the Renekton, which, surprisingly, this playoffs one hasn't really worked out for Kiaya. He played it once and lost this game. To be fair, it gets banned against him quite a bit. We still gotta hold that in our minds. But this Aatrox thing is something that Sparta found quite a bit of success on. On Aatrox, he's 5-0. On Cassandra, he's 3-2. On the other picks, he just tends to lose, which is very funny. But he's also 1-0 on the Ornn. So I think if he gets like something like the Aatrox against the Renekton, he should be pretty fine.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I agree with what Yue was saying. Kiaya wins top lanes, but he's not the Emperor, to talk about a fallen warrior, where he just solo kills you 10 times and just hard carries the game. He just kind of beats you and just has more map pressure. I do want to look a little bit at the jungle. We'd be loath to go into a GAM series and not talk at all about Levi. What do we think of this jungle matchup?
So Levi was still going back to his Wukong quite a bit in the regular split, not so much in the playoffs. In the playoffs, he's only it's still his most played champion. So he's essentially the only player in the world that likes the Wukong over everything still, because his Wukong is amazing. And this could actually kind of come back to hurt him, because the Vi is in a better state than the Wukong right now. Wukong is playable, but Vi is better than Wukong is right now. So I feel like if we go for the trait of the patch 13.10 or 13.8, where it was Wukong against Vi every game, this could be advantageous for BeanJ. But other than that, he's pretty good on the tank champions. He has the Zac in his pocket as well. The Zac is always an interesting one to look out for, especially if you go if Glory wants to experiment with some long-range counter picks into Azir, thinking of the Xerath maybe. Zac could come in and counter him and really make his life hell in mid lane through ganks all the time. So that's an interesting one to look out for. But overall, I feel like Levi, he plays the standard style right now. He's still insanely good at farming, especially on his tanks. It's always amazing to me how he gets 40 CS advantage on a Sejuani of all champions. But other than that, his playstyle is pretty much meta. There's not much going on there.
What about on the other side of the rift? Crincy, looking over at the jungle for Wales, how do we think this one plays out?
I mean, BeanJ is having a pretty good split so far. I mean, he kind of has his own redemption arc where he was getting benched for the side of GUI on Saigon Buffalo, and now he's on a different team. And look who's in the finals and who isn't, right? I mean, Saigon Buffalo is not there, and Team Waves are. That definitely speaks, of course, in his favor. What I think kind of worries me is that Wukong could actually be a good pick for today for the side of Levi, because, I mean, what you would usually want against it is something like maybe the Ivan or the Maokai. And on the trees, BeanJ is actually 0-3 so far in playoffs, so it's definitely not working out too well for him. What is, however, working out for him is like the well jungle, the Vi jungle, definitely some picks that he has found success on. And also a pick that could be important today, that is Nocturne, because, I mean, not only BeanJ, but also Levi could pick it away from him.
Well, with that discussion, we are into the draft. Rakan, Jax, Maokai, Xayah, Aatrox, and the CBL special Blitzcrank have been removed, and Glory will be going straight to LeBlanc.
Okay, this is very interesting to me. GAM did not choose blue side, which is super surprising, because Wales has an insane win rate on blue side in the playoffs. Way better than the red side win rate. Okay, they broke the blue side streak in the last series, but still a little bit surprising to me that GAM gave Wales the blue side here. LeBlanc first pick, a bit risky, gives over the rel to the other side, but there's still some junglers available. You could still go Ivern. Don't really see Ivern as a BeanJ champion too much, but yeah, Sejuani most played throughout the split, so this makes sense as well. I need a melee top laner, and there we go. That's a good combo.
Connect and flush. Either way, Connect and Sejuani, of course, discussing early game combination, where Kiaya is probably not too confident in maybe picking something like the Aatrox now, of course, because it definitely tends to lose against Redaction in the 1v1, and also like against Redaction Sejuani, you basically can't play the early game. And what I also think is pretty tough for Team Wales is the following thing. Beast in the playoff predictions kind of called Artemis right now a Xayah Kai'Sa 2-trick, and I hate him because he just told the truth. Xayah is banned now, Kai'Sa is picked away, potentially even for a mid lane flex with the Tristana together, and now Artemis needs a different champion to find success on. Most likely would be Zeri or Favorite, but GAM can just ban them right now.
Yeah, I think the Zeri ban might actually be a blessing in disguise here, because his Zeri performances in the last few series haven't been great, and he's playing with a different support, so getting through laning phases even harder. This is a good ban. This is a Shogun special. He was really, really strong on the Neela, and Artemis played some Neela as well, so we are actually looking to some... Ooh, that's an Ivan ban calling out the support rel here. Interesting one as well.
GAM has not played very much rel jungle. Levi just doesn't really play it. When the rel is picked, almost always pull out. So I think that's a good call out by Wales.
K'Sante makes sense. I think On would have been a little safer, but K'Sante has a little bit more agency. Has a CC denial, as does On, so those are the two obvious things you pick into the double stun from Sejuani and Renekton, so this should be safe for Kiaya, and yeah, there's the Aphelios still open, so it's still a very standard composition for Wales, looking like something from patch. Well, this looks like an Asian Games composition, honestly, to me.
I'm surprised CBL doesn't go Thresh there. CBL
Same.
has always been a fantastic Thresh player, and I think the Lantern does. He always just plays champions with hooks, but Thresh has a hook, so that's fine. I think the Lantern was really, really valuable. Let's see how GAM round their draft out there.
And not just the Lantern, but the Flay as well against something like the Well and the Cassandra potentially. I mean, Cassandra has many things we addressed it earlier. He also has like 369 armor, 201 magic resistance, and yada yada, you know it. Either way, it's a good pick against Renekton, I actually think, right now. Because recently, I have seen many Cassandras actually beat Renekton in lane right now, and that's why I'm kind of scared for Sparta over there. But Sparta, if he has a good game going on in that sense, he can just sort of destroy lanes. We have seen it time and time again in playoffs. And Renekton versus Cassandra, at least in the early game, should be Renekton favored. Like Cassandra tends to struggle against those sustained fighters like the Renekton is, where he can just go all out and then just kill himself with it because he just lacks the own base HP to really fight against Renekton.
It's Levi on our favorite champion, Lilia, finally. R5. So, Levi, this is such an interesting little tidbit. Levi, of course, an absolutely amazing AP jungler, right? He's probably among the best Karthus junglers in the world, I'd say. He's so proficient on farming and pathing on Karthus. So you would assume that he's really good on Lilia too. But he was very reluctant to pick up the Lilia. He was actually beaten by the Lilia back in 2020 when Ego was really good Lilia.
It's why they lost that split.
Exactly. So this
Levi
is
not recognizing Lilia lost them a split.
They actually went to red side to set up this counter pick Lilia, so he has to be good in this game. He has to show us, and he should be able to. He is such a good pathing jungler. Lilia is exactly his style. He should be good in this champion. Now is his time to show us.
It is, and I remember the quote, obviously translated. He was asked, well, why didn't you pick Lilia? I hate her. So I think his attitude must have changed. I mean, I don't understand, just terrible taste, frankly. But he's obviously changed his tune, brought it out, and I think it makes a lot of sense in this comp. Wales has gone for a very brawly comp. You're going to be able to get 3 or 4 man sleeps fairly consistently. And again, I think Thresh would have been really nice because he can do a bit more when the deer's running at you at Mach 10.
I mean, this to me just tells me that maybe they are just more on comfort with CBL, just going for the Nautilus with him not really having played many games recently. I mean, Fresh also was in his arsenal in like April, but I mean, Fresh in general is a harder to pilot champion than the Nautilus is. And I think this Lilia pick could be very great here. I mean, this Lilia is playing into 3 tanks over there, so definitely one way to really just skirt around them and run circles around them to just really drop those sitting ducks with the passive damage that also just is so great against those tanky champions. And yeah, Wales might struggle against it, but their early game is also pretty scary. If this Renekton Sejuani topside can get rolling, it can be a good game for them.
That it can, and of course we are onto the Rift for game 1 of our summer finals. And Carty going to this Tristana, we didn't really talk about it in draft. It's an interesting pickup.
I mean, it should be there every game. It is so strong, and in other leagues, this is first pick worthy. Even banned in almost all the early rotations over the LEC, for example. So it makes a lot of sense that he should play this, and of course, it sets up Levi's AP junglers. If we think back to the best iteration of Levi we've seen over the years, I think it's either Wukong with his insane win rate in team fights and setting up flanks, or his AP junglers with an AD mid laner. That's always the best style for Levi. So game number 1 is exactly what he likes to do, and I feel like this is this pressure from Carty could really open up the whole map for Levi to run over.
And the LeBlanc just doesn't get to do much, right? I mean, she definitely relies on the static shift power spike, but Tristana can actually match it. There are like different Tristana builds that are going around right now, with some going the Kraken Slayer, some going the static. I could see arguments for both on this side, because I mean, it's a pretty frontline heavy competition from the side of Team Wales, so Kraken Slayer wouldn't be too much of a surprise. But he might just go for the static shift just to match Glowy's static power spike himself, and just always just outpush the LeBlanc and kind of render her useless in like the whole concept of the champion right now.
Sparta in trouble, needs to find a way out, manages it well. Ooh, has to flash. Levi will follow up and take that first blood.
And they pinged this on the map. There was a red ping exactly on Levi's position. What did Sparta do? He just lost his mind. He knew Levi was there and just thought he could waste a little bit of time, and he pays for it dearly. But maybe the punish, because Bean J is there to kill Kiaya.
Yeah, Kiaya has overstayed a little bit.
Oh.
Flashing over the wall, though. Not going to go down. BJ will try and chase him, but look at mid lane. They don't have any pressure. Kiaya's gone.
Kiaya's out, and that's just one way of a good headset for the side of GAM, of course. I mean, we were worried about the bot side on the side of Team Wales, and now actually the top side is the one that has to snowball and just kind of doesn't for now, which is, of course, a small disaster, I would say. Not a big one, but definitely not something that they are very happy about. And not getting the kill to Kiaya there definitely hurts them. But gotta admit, Kiaya just played it out nicely in the mechanical department, just going for the offensive Q into flash out, and then he's over there with the blast plant. Knows mid lane doesn't have pressure on the side of Wales, so he's out.
Yeah, but still, you expect this to be a counter kill, so this is so much time wasted now for BJ, because instead of getting some camps on the other side of the map while the enemy jungler gets the first gank done, okay, he is ahead actually in the 2 camps, but should be equalized soon. But yeah, instead he went to get the counter kill and then didn't get the kill, which is, yeah, it's the worst case scenario. Now Levi has extra gold. He will equalize the farm lead as well, and now he can perma invade because level 4 BJ is gonna have a really hard time defending against Lilia, who naturally counters all the HP from the Sejuani, of course. A really good matchup in the 1v1. So yeah, these are gonna be a few really hard minutes to play for BJ with the next jungle rotation spawn.
I would maybe go even further on this one. I think BJ will never really recover from that in the 1v1 jungle, of course. I mean, there was one power spike like where he's level 6 in the bot lane. Not that much happening actually. But even if he is like around the level 6 mark, where he gets maybe like a small time window where he gets kill pusher onto Levi, Levi would also be hitting level 6 around that same time window. And as long as he has a little lullaby, he probably can get out if BJ happens to engage onto him.
Yeah, and I mean, this is also kind of screwed over this Renekton pick, where we said, hey, you know, Cassante, he sort of loses the lane early. It should be Renekton favored. Not anymore. I feel like this is pretty firmly Cassante, or maybe it's more Kiaya favored now. And I think it just makes it so hard for Team Wales to play out this early game.
Yeah, this mid lane is really, this matchup in the mid lane is something we need to look out for the rest of the series, because if you let your opponent have Tristana, you need to have a good answer. And so far it looks like it's just the normal Tristana lane where she gets perma push. And there's so many options for Levi to go for invading and aggressive early junglers to pair with Carti's Tristana. So if this doesn't work for Wales, it's a really bad omen for the next few games in terms of draft, because you kind of have to ban the Tristana first picket. So I want to see Wales...
Ults being exchanged, Dominus, and an all-out. Sparta started that fight. He's just been destroyed in it. 3 around the bot side as well for both teams, so they're just going to back off. But that is a massive, massive misplay out of Sparta.
What's happening here?
Got a biff going in. CBL having to flash away. Now Paulette potentially in some trouble, but not tagged up by that Gravitum. It was on cooldown, so we'll be able to just jump away.
And I addressed the draft a little bit, like, recently, like, Cassante matchups against Renekton tend to be like a bit more Cassante favored. Like, one gank was apparently enough to just swing it around in the 6th minute already, and it was a fight that Sparta actually chose to go for. So definitely not something where he can have any excuse whatsoever. And that was before Cassante picked up the Bramble West. It will not get better in the near future, or in the whole future, I'm gonna say. Like, maybe it will get better next game or something, because this Renekton will not beat the Cassante anymore. And here we see again how they really played it out. It is him getting chunked before he really goes in, and he doesn't have a lot of fury, of course, gets a bit of fury from the Dominus activation, but that's just not enough. Just one empowered spell for him, and Kiaya just can blast him with the full rotation here, and he has enough armor to just withstand the Renekton combo, and once that's out of the window, Cassandra just does more than Renekton.
BJ coming into mid just to relieve pressure, actually gets Cardi's flash, and Glory following up. They really want this, and they're going to get it.
That's a good punish. Finally finding something here, and finally linking up in the early game between Glory and BJ to gank mid lane. This is something I wanted to see all the time when they played by Ahri, and they never did it, so it's good, good adaptation. The problem is, yeah, Levi is still...
Lullaby.
Ooh, the
used.
Oh
my word!
Let's go.
All right, we go straight down to the bot lane where Artemis is having a bit of a biff. It's a 1-for-1 at the moment. Both supports have gone down, but with all these chakrams built up, Slater does not want to fight. Artemis running forward, flashing, and it's a double.
That's just the goals of the VCS clashing, right? Levi in the 1v2 with the outplay, and then Artemis in the 1v2 with the outplay. Of course, calling Artemis one of the goals of the VCS is a bit of a stretch. But, I mean, was just a great play by Levi, to be honest. And in the bot lane play, we didn't really see much of. Here is the replay of that one. And it was CBL at the first just sacrificing himself, but the whole combo was blown on towards him. Slater going in there with the killer instinct, so he's not mobile anymore. And Artemis has the funny weapons, right? It's red, white, don't fight, and that's apparently not the memo that GAM got. So Artemis flashes offensively and just chases them all down.
This time it was red, white, say goodnight as he cleaned them up. That mid lane play, I do have to wonder why Glory was still there. Could have just left. But anyway, we have another fight as Levi has been caught out, taken very low, taken down. That's another kill for Artemis. A lovely hook in as well. Cardi now in so much trouble, has to go over the wall. Artemis gets him over the wall. This Aphelios is a large lad.
Artemis is here to play. He won against GAM back in the so-called Mickey Mouse split for his first ever championship. And he wants to repeat that. Do we have a dive on our hands? I don't think they can go for it, but they can go for a few plates here.
I think that's what they will end up doing there. I think GAM just has to respect the potential of a dive, but here we see the replay again. Just the Herald set up. And while Wunekton had a very awful early game, he's still super strong with the dominance in this Herald fight. So no matter what happens in the early game, just all those Fury stacked up. He has just so much combat stats that it needs to be respected by the side of GAM. And they all just tunnel into his color league. And Artemis was ready for the play. He just got his double kill and got to shop from that one. So one situation where he can just net himself another double kill.
Back to live. We've got another fight breaking out. Artemis will finally be going down. Big shutdown given over to Kiaya. CBL should be following him to the grave momentarily. They're going to try and give that one over to Levi, I imagine. There it is.
Okay, it's VCS time. We are at 11 kills in 10 minutes. Here we go. This is a classic VCS game.
It's just most calm VCS game.
Yeah, most standard VCS final.
Yeah, and that probably was a juicy shutdown that Levi just got on the back of Artemis.
Kiaya
got it.
Yep.
Yeah. Not sure if that's actually slightly better for Wales, I gotta say, because Cassante doesn't scale that insanely off the items itself. Once he has Iceborne, it's kind of fine, but here we see the play again. Artemis gets he knocked into turret. Aggro he doesn't actually, but he's just in a very bad position. Still sitting dark on the failures, of course, and can't just get out in the 2v3. And CBL also getting chased down. The shutdown goes over to Kiaya, so that's at least something to write home about. But Levi gets his second kill against CBL, so more gold for the Deer, and the Lilia scales very well with these items, so can definitely make something of it. But gotta say, overall, despite this disastrous early start for Wales, it's a close game.
Yeah, they fought back so valiantly in this game, and now actually in a decent position. They're up in gold. They still the Herald was used in top lane, but they funneled a lot of gold into this Aphelios. He went for Kraken Slayer. Gonna be interesting to see what he goes for in terms of items. Does he actually go for the high DPS build? Which we have seen a few times. It popped up here and there because after the buffs of Infinity Edge, it's actually really strong in the late game again. You have to sacrifice the mobility, but I feel like in this composition you kind of need the damage, so I would like to see it. Just protect him with all your melee champs and then he should be fine. He's probably just going to go Gale Force. I've been a little bit sad to see all the Aphelioses go Gale Force with no regards to IE whatsoever, because I feel like IE should be an option too, but let's see what he decides to do.
I think he kind of needs both, but can't go both. That's kind of the awkward thing. That's because they don't have a Fresh, right? He just needs the mobility, as we see in the mid lane. BJ fishing with the Glacial Prism. And yeah, he kind of needs the damage, of course, to get through the Cassante at some point, and maybe even through the well. And also a potentially tanky One of Ages Lilia coming your way. But he also, I think he needs like some self-heal. So Gale Force together with Kraken Slayer is not an unlikely option.
Flashbirds in the bot side.
Oh, look at Levi's build. Let's go, Levi. I like this. This is such a good build. If you get the time to scale up, because it makes you so insanely tanky. The drain tanking through the new Rod of Ages passive is unbelievable. You get like 500-600 HP in a team fight extra, and you're already tankier because Rod of Ages gives you HP. So Levi will really be a monster in the late game if he gets going a bit, hits 1-2 abilities, and then just runs around all the tanky members of the enemy team. So yeah, this is going to take a little bit of time to scale, of course, but it makes him so strong in skirmishes and later on in team fights.
So and also not just the late game.
Sorry, go ahead.
One point about the Rod of Ages, like like 9 minutes from now or 8 minutes from now, he will just get a free level on top of that, and that is where the Lilia will have a very great power spike no matter what, because a level more is just so much in stats. It's kind of understated, I gotta say. And regardless of that, like Lilia is kind of this monster that can just deal damage, also be mobile, also be tanky, and that just screws you up in the late game. So Team Wales definitely need to get something going beforehand. And yeah, we addressed it with Artemis beforehand, right? He kind of needs all of it. He needs to be able to kill Levi, but still be safe on his own, and it won't be easy for sure.
I actually think someone we need to keep an eye on in fights is actually Sparta. Because the thing about Lilia is that, yeah, okay, she runs around at the speed of sound, does a huge amount of damage. You need point-and-click CC for her. Like, relying on skill shot CC is so difficult. We might have to come back to it. As Artemis could be in a little bit of trouble. BJ is here. The Glacial Prison was not great, but they do manage to disengage. I think Sparta's Ruthless Predator is going to be really, really important in fights to try and stop Levi running over everyone. Is this turning into a real fight? What are we doing here, fellas? We're burning flushes. Sparta is having a rough one.
Sparta's a level ahead. He should actually be like the favorite in this 1v1, but he's feeling very jittery. I think a little bit of stage nerves coming in. He was underperforming heavily last playoffs, where he came in as our #1 pick for top lane in the regular season in spring. And then in playoffs, his performance went downhill so quickly. He was clearly very impacted by the big stage, by the big occasion. So a little bit of a bad sign in game #1. Of course, we don't want to read too much into it, but it looks like he's quite nervous here.
Yeah, I don't think he needed to flash that at all. Like, he probably was expecting like some all-out into the turret, and it is kind of a scary thought, but he kind of chose that fight, so he shouldn't be that scared of it. I think he just wins at this point with being a level ahead in the Dominus and having all that fury around him. Either way, it was just rather having some jitters. And I want to talk about a different thing on the side of GAM, which I addressed earlier a little bit. The Tristana can just go static shift to match, of course, the static shift for the side of Glowy, to just fight for the priority a little bit more. But I could also see, like, on GAM's side a little bit, that they just struggle to kill down the beefy frontliners on the side of Wales. It is mostly just Levi that has a great way of dealing with them before either Kaiser or Tristana gets something like a Rageblade or a Kraken Slayer or any kind of mythic item to really just snowball those AD carry item builds.
Yeah, I actually think this is a little bit of a trap, but we have more important things to think about, because it's a 5-on-5 in the mid.
In goes Paulette, trying to get something done, but Artemis is currently completely non-threatened. Able to run away, but oh no, he's been tagged, uses a cleanse, but in goes the Kiaya. Levi carving them up. Oh no, Team Wales are melting away, sent to Dreamland as they get wiped off the map. Only Sparta stays alive.
Disastrous. What can I say? That's why you should pick Fresh, is what I would say, and that's probably what Carrix would also say as well in the draft, because the Fresh could maybe peel Artemis a little bit there, and Artemis just kind of got run over by both Kiaya and Levi there, as here we see the replay again. I think it was at least Team Wales picking up the Herald, but it was a very, very pricey Herald. And here we see, Void Seeker landing on the side of Slater. I think he doesn't even go for the killer instinct here. It actually starts off nicely for Wales as they get the kill onto as well. And yeah, here's the backline dive. Kiaya goes in with the Tofu strikes, and then just all out Artemis into the middle of it, and the Phalos just doesn't survive longer than half a second, so it's a very rough one for them, and they all get cleaned up by GAM.
Oh, never mind. I think Slater should be fine if you can dodge the hook. Yeah. Carrix, can you explain to me why Levi hasn't played this champion in such a long time? Like, he played this fight so well. He was building up his movement speed on the edges, just hitting the front line, just hitting the support with Q 2 or 3 times. And then he went in and hit a 5-man Q into ultimate, all 5 members, whereas slapped by Levi. So perfect execution on the Lilia fight there. Beautifully done. You just wonder why he hates this champion. It fits his playstyle so insanely well.
We've been asking that question since 2020. We haven't got a good answer. Why doesn't he play this champion? I agree. Maybe they finally just convinced him that actually it's Shyvana. This is the Shyvana rework. He's got a little thing that goes around him in a circle. It's AP. The E throws a thing. Like, maybe this is Levi just thinking this is AP Shyvana. But it's a pretty incredible pick. One comment on that last fight. I do have to question CBL's target selection. Levi was in the middle of the team, and he just altered the Tristana that hadn't entered the fight. It's like, dude, come on. The Lily is right there. You need to stop that.
I mean, also Lilia just straight up deals way more damage than Tristana and
Yeah.
static shift. Like
Exactly. It's
the
like
Tristana is not the main threat here. But yeah, now GAM with a huge advantage. Team Wales at least can fall back on their dragon scaling maybe. Ocean Soul coming up is pretty decent for them. 3 tanky members. Ocean Soul can counteract a little bit of the DPS from Levi potentially. So that's their out in this game, but it's pretty far away still.
It is, and also Ocean Soul in general just not too great, right? I mean, it just all just depends if Artemis can survive for longer than 2 seconds or not, basically. I mean, if he can, the Ocean Soul is having some decent value, I would say, and he can maybe just out DPS whatever GAM brings to the table. But, I mean, that's also very hard because they have a double AD carry composition with a Lilia. That's also pretty decent DPS, I gotta say. Either way, GAM definitely pulling off a good chunk ahead, but it's actually surprisingly not that much, I would say, because I mean, Wales still got 2 Drakes. It's a bit more than 2,000 gold, and we are almost 20 minutes into the game. It's not the end of the world, I gotta say. And they also got the mid lane T1 to it, which, of course, for map control is a great asset.
But yeah, look at the side lanes now for lane assignments, because GAM, of course, is a much more accomplished side laning team. Maybe the best alongside Team Secret, I'd say, at playing the map, at playing waves on the side. And Wales is kind of one of the worst teams when it comes to that. They beat Team Secret by sheer force of grouping in the mid lane and letting them execute themselves to the mid lane towers. I'm not sure if GAM is going to make the same kind of mistake. So how will Wales counteract this insanely annoying split pushing setup now from GAM, because their side laners are very slippery, very hard to kill, very hard to lock down, and then there's a Lilia running around and she could show up anywhere. So dealing with this Tristana and Cassanti in the 2 side lanes is gonna be a headache, and let's see if Wales finds an answer, because otherwise Tristana is just gonna chip away at the towers and slowly advance the game state.
I will say, I think the whole maybe they can brute force it. You do have Artemis in a position that his brute force is pretty strong. You know, we're looking at Wales. I think at this point, like, we're looking at sort of 4 dolphins, and then Artemis is that one whale they kept at SeaWorld that kept eating people.
IE.
He's gone IE.
Yeah,
I think he has to. Yeah, I think it's the correct decision. He has a lot of weight on his shoulders, and he needs that to help carry it.
He just needs to sidestep everything and then just right-click them to death. Maybe that's the way to go.
Bit of an engage here from Wales, but it's a bit of a turnaround from that lilting lullaby. CBL in trouble, going down immediately. Artemis unable to enter the fight. They've just entered that away.
And this was exactly the same position as Secret was in last week, all the time. Like mid-tower, when Secret pushed from mid-tower, Wales punished them. So they tried the exact same play, but GAM was prepared for it. They watched the Secret series and just counter-punished. I'm not sure if that's a term, but it is now. And now we're at Baron.
Yeah, and we're probably getting Baron. Sparta has popped the Dominus, trying to build up a bit of the Fury. In goes Artemis with the ultimate, but he doesn't have great guns for this one. Needs to try and find a way into the fight. Kiaya getting chunked out, takes another ping, but BJ in trouble. Kati moving to the side, gets the assassination, but Artemis is still alive. And I think that threat is going to stop any further cracks at the Baron. Oh my word, this game is on a knife's edge.
And GAM just going for the indecisive call, I gotta say. I mean, they took a decision, but it probably was not a good one with going for this turn. When they kind of didn't play this turn out cleanly, Artemis still got to free it and actually kill Cardi quite quickly there, of course, because ADK with ADK stand after this turner doesn't really hold off if she doesn't really get to focus their failures. And there we saw a little bit of a taste of the Infinity Edge damage that was coming out from the side of Artemis. Here we see it again. I think GAM actually could maybe just rush down the Baron and then run, or maybe then turn for it. But they decide for the turn, which in itself is probably not that bad of a call, but the execution of it kind of fumbles. Voidseeker for Plater also missing here. And then Kati kind of loses his mind a few seconds later, as we maybe see here. He probably got baited by his own explosive cast, gets staggered mid-air by the Arctic Assault from BJ. That was the key ability there, I gotta say. Then Artemis just had to right-click them. And that's Team Wales with a little bit of a W there.
Yeah, buys a little bit of time. They do. Oh, that's interesting.
Hail Mary.
Okay,
this
so
is the Hail Mary play.
They have a lot of damage on this Baron, but can they finish?
Levi is on Drake.
No, they can't get out afterwards is more the problem, I think. As Kiaya TP's in, they do get the Baron, but now they need to evacuate. One will immediately go down, but it's just CBL. Run. I don't think there's anywhere to run to, fellas. It will make them go through an Aphelios turret if they can regroup, try and make something happen, collapse on one of the pincers. Kiaya is going to be the choice, but that's a big Cassandre. Good flash there from Artemis, repositioning, but now the lullaby's being sung. They've all taken a nap, and GAM's going to make it into a dirt one as they wipe Wales out. Nice, Baron. How's it going?
Wales take the wrong decision. It was such a risky play. They just bought time in the last Baron engagement. They see the opportunity on the other side of the map. They see two people go for Dragon and say, okay, we have Aphelios, we have the guns, we can go for the Baron rush. But they didn't plan for an evacuation. And yes, they get the Baron, but what did it cost? Absolutely everything. 5k gold lead for GAM. And this does look really rough now for the side of Wales in game number 1.
And of course, hindsight is 2020, but I think they should have just gone for the Drake. I mean, they were the Drake's second team anyway, and just the idea itself, I don't really blame, because I mean, what can you else do? I mean, if they are going for the Drake and you have the position of the Baron, just going for the Baron and then out is probably not a terrible call in itself, but here it absolutely was, because GAM had just such an easy way to just route them in and them just forcing Team Wales into a bad positioning, where Artemis had to flash out quite early, so he didn't really have to flash up later on for Levi's engage, and he could just put him to sleep, literally, and then just end the fight. With Artemis going down, I mean, Artemis is basically the lion's share of the damage of the whole team from Team Wales, and if he's down, they can't really fight anything anymore, and GAM could just clean them up all 5, so the Baron was absolutely useless.
Yeah, now there's a huge opportunity for GAM to actually push through and finish the game, or set themselves up to finish the game, because Artemis, while he has a lot of damage, he has no defensive summoners now. He doesn't have a cleansed, or like a QSS now as a second cleanse. He can't afford to go for it. He has to build damage. So just dive on top of Artemis, I think, is a really good call here. Try to kill him, try to push past the inhibitor line, because now you still have the Baron buff for about a minute. And such a huge power spike for a lot of the people. You don't have the Baron buff. The enemy team got the Baron. What am I talking about? Sorry. But still, the opportunity to dive him and just punish him for using his flash in the last fight is definitely there. And I would like to see it, especially with Levi now close to level 16. Look how tanky this Lilia is. This is why I love this build. It's so strong. Damage and tankiness all in once.
Yeah, you also love the Magi probably on his side, but he's just such a baller, right? 10 stacks on it already, and so you kind of have to focus him to get the Magi stacks off, but you can't really focus him because he's still like a half-tanky champion, so you're kind of in a rough situation in this regard as well. So Levi can just slowly but surely stack up more Magi stacks, and this is unironically a good decision by him to just go for this, I gotta say, cocky item.
They're going to try and catch a fight here where they can try and get a 4v5 as they move in. Good early damage. Kiaya is just blown up. Levi could be in trouble as well. Has already gone gold. Lilting Lullaby's not up. So there's actually 2 kills picked up for Wales. But look what they're losing in exchange. You don't want to be here, Glory. Bad TB.
Fine though, because they finally shut down Levi. They got rid of his stacks. That's a huge deal. Losing a mid inhibitor tower doesn't really matter too much. Who cares?
They can get
even losing mid inhibitor is not too bad. Can they kill Slater? I don't think they have the chase, but yeah, this buys them a little bit of time. And I think the kill was worth like 1,000 gold as well. I'm not sure who collected the gold, but this is quite a big swing. And GAM with a little bit of an overstep. Didn't read the collapse from Team Wales correctly and have to walk away with a little bit of a reset in the passage of play here.
Yeah, this seems absolutely worth for the side of Team Wales. GAM not really clean on the exit play, and this middle inhibitor tilt is just a consolation prize, I gotta say. I mean, you just addressed it, right? Even if they get the inhibitor, you fight for mid and priority anyway. Of course, it's better than nothing, right? But it's not that much of a big deal. I mean, for the next Drake fight, it would maybe be nice, but this huge gold introduction overall is just good for Team Wales. And we just praised this cocky Mages purchase that actually turned out well for the side of GAM. Now the Mages is just gone. Levi had to sell it, so there's also a little bit of gold value lost there on the side of GAM in general. And the next Drake spawns in 20 seconds, and the positioning from Team Wales doesn't look too shabby. I mean, they could maybe just rush this one down with the Aphelios having good weapons for it. The weapons look like actually not that good to rush down a Drake, but I mean, still, regardless of that, it could be the third Drake for Team Wales, and GAM doesn't have the positioning around it.
Yeah, look at his items now. I think he got the shutdown because he is sitting on 4.5 items. This Aphelios is good to go.
Colette, Hex flashing over the wall, just goes in immediately. It's not worked out at all. Levi's down. That's absolutely massive. Artemis has red-white. And they've just gotten 2 kills out of nowhere. Paulette loses his mind.
Is this game going to turn around?
Could be, right? It's just the first break for the side of Team Wales. Soul point now permanently for them. And that just is now another gold influx for them. And they were just winning these last few team fights just with the team being behind in general. And now they are less behind than before. Like, you just now addressed it, right? Artemis was on 4.5 items. This will soon be full build. And Team Wales is absolutely spiking right now.
And I think there's something hugely wrong with GAM's read on how to play team fights, because they're over forcing front-to-back team fights when they have two ADCs that could just play on the outskirts and collapse. Look at this. How can Kai'Sa do anything in this fight? She's completely useless. She's just waiting for opportunity to dive in, but she can't. It's impossible for her. Slater doesn't have a single auto attack. There's one auto attack on Sparta. The whole fight was one auto attack from Slater. Tristana is trying, but she also doesn't have the same sort of setup as Artemis does. You have two ADCs, but both of them can't really excel in this kind of fight. It's more of an Aphelios fight, more of a Jinx fight. You need to set up the fights differently. You need to split up the lines, try to isolate some people with Kiaya, with Levi coming from different sides, and then use your insane chase power on things like the Killer Instinct and, of course, the Rocket Jump to go target to target to target. You can't just go front-to-back team fighting, because then Aphelios is going to have time to unload on you, and he has such insane damage now. He went the best damage build that he can go for, apart from maybe the Hex Drinker, but he went IE and he went for Runan, so you literally can't build more damage on this champion, so this is very, very scary now. GAM has to think about how they play fights and how they set up the fights.
And I think something that's really important here is Levi doesn't have flash. Such an important tool on Lilia to just brute force a Lilting Lullaby onto Artemis is down for a potential Baron dance and a Baron situation. I feel like if Lilting Lullaby doesn't land onto Artemis, I can't see him dying.
Oh.
Catch on to Kiaya, but he's Cassante. He should be fine. They throw out the Moonlight Vigil. Ooh, this is dangerous, Wales. You don't need to lose your mind here. On the side, it's a good assassination. In they go. Artemis is trying his best, but he's in the middle of the team. He's managed to get through. He's popping it up. He's tiding it out. Levi has to find him, but Levi can't. That's a quadra, and it's an ace for Wales.
And that's a game for Wales. Artemis just does it. Quarter kill into a single kill for the side of BJ, and he just kites it out perfectly. He gets hard engaged by the side of Kati, but he just shoots him in the face and just ends his life instantly there. That looked like a horrible fight setup for the side of Team Wales as they blew the Sejuani ultimate before. And then just GAM kind of sniffing out their chances, going for the full all-in in the 5v5, and they just lose it because Artemis is just better.
And since 2021, GAM has lost 2 best-of-5s on the VCS. One to Artemis, and one to Shogun. There's a pattern here. If you have the better ADC, you can win team fights against GAM, and what a performance from Artemis. Finally made the pivot in itemization, didn't go for the safe build, went for full damage, played it perfectly. GAM overchase in front-to-back team fights, and GAM loses game number 1 after 5 or 6k gold lead in the mid-game.
Xayah Kai'Sa one trick, by the way. I think we can add Aphelios to that list because he had an incredible performance. I can't believe he survived that final fight, though he didn't get Lilting Lullabied and therefore he didn't die. So maybe I'm just tapped into the Matrix on that one. Really fantastic stuff. We're going to go straight to a short little break so we can get ourselves ready, we can recover, and we can come back and show you all why Team Wales have become trillionaires in Game 1.
Stole the dress I
everybody, just want to put it out there. Who predicted Wales winning? Can I just get a check? Was it you?
I predicted 3-1 and they will.
Yeah, but I think that was a 3-0 prediction. It's a bit strange. Because Wales have Artemis, and Artemis just went kind of sicko mode.
Yeah, I think this was actually a protest
everything
from Levi. I think Levi was protesting. He was like, shit, I don't actually like playing Lilia. I can't win this game. I'm 8-1. I'll have to play Lilia every game if I win this. So he just protested and and lost.
I'm not sure if he was that convincing because
Artemis
he played well. Boy. Yeah, Artemis was your boy. He still is my boy, and maybe he just shows up because I'm around. I mean, we don't really know. Either way, here we see some stats on the game and a nice goal curve. The wet side is a losing side, by the way, which is the funny part. And Wales actually won the game despite being down in kills, which is also kind of funny. And yeah, I just gotta say, Artemis is the man. He kind of turned it around in the later fights. But I gotta say, like, despite Wales now winning on blue side and GAM now having to pick sides, I mean, aside from the result, like, a lot of things has to change. I think Relax and Sejuani was still not great for Wales, not at all. It didn't really work out to LeBlanc for Glory. I don't particularly hate it, but I also didn't really like it anyway. I think the Tristana was a good answer. Despite GAM losing this game, I think you have to treat this draft as if GAM would have won this game.
Yeah, if you look at this game just from analyzing what went wrong for GAM, I think most of it is just about the teamfight setup, as I hit on in the game already. And one big factor for that is the Slater Kaiser. It's not on him, really. I don't think he played badly. I actually think the way he found the kill on the right side of the last teamfight was really impressive. For him to know when he could go to the site and just assassinate one member. But his team just didn't play around this champion really well. So I feel like if you want to play this kind of style, you need something like a Jinx. I think a Jinx in this game could have completely turned around all the team fights, because their biggest problem was that Slater did not hit anyone. He couldn't step up to auto-attack anyone. So if you want to play like that, it's fine. You can win games like that, but you can't draft Kaiser. If you don't give her space to play with all her range, with all her repositioning, with the weird invisibility and so on, then don't play her. It doesn't make sense. She's not the greatest front-to-back team fighter. They're way better ADCs if you want to play like that. So just, yeah, GAM has to either just change how they play around Kaiser, or they change the Kaiser. I think if you go Jinx here, if you go Aphelios for yourself, because they committed to the Kaiser super early, it can go way better for them. So there's still a lot of hope in terms of team fighting for the GAM side.
I think one thing that I really noticed is I think Tristana has to get banned if you're Team Wales. I actually don't think they had an answer at all to the side laning Tristana. I really think they got bailed out by the fact that GAM just said, okay, we'll fight you. I think they could have parked Carty in a side lane and they would have just won the game. Tristana did not look stoppable.
I agree. I think it was mostly stopped by Carty himself because he was overforcing some teamfight there that he absolutely shouldn't. And yeah, I think also on the GAM side, you could just have picked the Kaiser early to prevent Artemis getting it and just shift the Kaiser to mid lane, pick a different AD carry. Actually, even just maybe pick Tristana bot lane and just swap those two around. Or what you suggested, you were just going for something like a Jinx. It's kind of like this stylistic mismatch, right? But you wanted to have Kaiser as a takeaway, but if you also want to front-to-back team fight, you kind of need a different solution around it, and it's kind of a tough call to make. But I think Tristana bot lane would have worked out in this situation, or something like, maybe just not picking Tristana at all. But Tristana in general worked quite well until Carty decided to sprint it a little bit. So let's see what their own ideas are for game 2.
I mean, to be honest, I think it, in the end, just comes down to GAM being lazy in their execution, reading their own team composition completely incorrectly, because I think their team composition was amazing. They had 3 winning lanes, they had really strong side laning, they had a jungler that was perma ahead and invading all the time. They kind of failed to control dragons, which is weird because they had push in mid and bot lane and a winning jungler. So that's something they need to look out for, controlling the early dragons a bit better. But in general, if they just play to their win conditions better, then I think they have this game in the back, the first game. But if they just can't execute on non-front-to-back team fights, then they just have to change their draft, because just draft for front-to-back then, right? Because if you don't draft front-to-back but then play front-to-back, even a 5k gold lead is not going to help you. So I think this is just on GAM players and Hanke to decide which of the 2 ways they want to go. They could either just stick with their draft ideas and fix the execution, or just adapt their draft to their execution. Both are viable, and I'm really interested to see which of the two ways they go for game number 2.
One small thing they could also do is like just change the item builds a little bit. Just have either Kaiser or the Tristana just go for, instead of Static, just go for the Kraken Slayer item build, so you can just front to back easier. I think you don't need Static on both, right? I think when they did it, I kind of applauded it because they were absolutely destroying Team Wales in the mid game. I think they could have maybe also done that with one of those two. If just maybe the Kaiser just goes for the Kraken Slayer item build, you just go her with maybe even the National to Rage Blade, and then she can actually just front to back team for this on her own, and you would just not run into the trouble of Kati just diving in and having to go for the reset early to really win those fights, and he wouldn't feel forced to that, and then they just win this way. But the way they did it, it was kind of just too much of one thing, and they could have just went like a middle ground on this, and it would have been a very easy fair weather game for them.
Yeah, I do agree, as everything's frozen for me. Hopefully I can still be heard.
Just output. We hear each other, right?
Yeah, seems that way. Anyway, going into game 2, do we anticipate a side swap? Because GAM, seemingly, they were the higher seed, so they had side selection and picked red. Do we think they're going to stick on red?
I think this was a specific strategy to counter Wales on blue side with the R5 Lilia. It was not expected, and it didn't lead to a game victory, so I feel like GAM is going to change it. It would be maybe better to not go away from it, because essentially, I mean, in theory, it worked, right? They were dominating the game. They had an early game lead. So if you are very sure of yourself, then you would go with this strategy again. But now it's not hidden anymore. So I feel like the more consistent play is just to go to blue side and just play standard game, start with the Kaiser pick or Tristana pick and just play the meta. So no, GAM goes back to red side again. So yeah, they have more planned here in the counter department. Let's see where they go this time around.
And Sejuani's the man.
And also Aatrox taken away from Spada. I think that wasn't the case in the first game, if I remember correctly. Because it was? That's why they didn't pick it. Makes sense, of course. But I think the Sejuani ban is actually not that good, because I think BJ didn't really have too much of a pressure. And I think neither Renekton Sejuani nor LeBlanc Sejuani worked out greatly for them. So let's see what the change will be for this game. It's not the patch where Jarvan is completely insane, so it probably won't be a BJ Jarvan or something along those lines. What I could see is the well being played by either team. Probably GAM just takes it here, right? And they do.
Same rotation again, right? They have Kaiser early on. That's no Tristana priority, which is a little surprising. But then again, the enemy team would only be able to play Tristana in the bot lane, so it's a little bit lower on the priority list. It's probably going to be R3 here for GAM, because it worked in laning phase. Oh, I like this a lot. Alchemist is actually quite a good Tristana player. Picking away the Tristana counter means that Lori should have a way better laning phase this time around, and maybe a bit of pressure even to free up BJ. So Tristana this time going to go into the bot lane alongside another Nautilus. Just keep on picking what's comfortable for CBL. He hasn't played League in a while, or professionally in a while, so I think the Nautilus is just going to be one of the stables here. Maybe something GAM should also look to attack, because this player hasn't been on stage for such a long time. The Annie would be a big change. We haven't seen Annie in a long while.
Yeah, it would have been a decent matchup into LeBlanc, but what I personally prefer would just dodge the Kaiser to Tristana matchup and just shift Kaiser to the mid lane, because she actually does well against the LeBlanc, but that seems to have fallen out of favor quite a bit, so they go for the Annie, which I personally don't like, but also I can somewhat see it, because Annie is also a fine answer into the LeBlanc itself. It will, however, not be easy for Slater in the laning phase, or even the whole game in general, to fight up against Artemis and Tristana, so let's see if GAM is really too happy about it in the later stages. And now for the top side of the map, we will probably see something like Cassandra and Black being contested, of course, with those being the remaining top priority top laners left on the table. And this kind of worries me for Wales side, because I think Kiaya probably wins both Renekton into Cassandra and Cassandra to Renekton, so it will be hard.
I love this ban here. The Wukong ban was something I wanted to point out, because this time they have an AP mid laner, so the setup for Wukong Annie was really, really strong here. It's a strong team fighting combo. This is something Levi has played to perfection so many times. So banning the Wukong here is a really, really good adaptation. I love it. I think another, you could ban Kha'Zix maybe, because that's another AD carry jungler that Levi could go to. He played a few games of it. You could even ban the Vi, but then again, maybe you want to pick Vi yourself. So I expect another AD jungler. Yeah, that's another option, the Nocturne. Okay, very nice to see. They are doubling down on the AD junglers. And now I think GAM kind of has to play. Ooh, the Lee Sin. That would be a little bit out of left field. I think Vi is more consistent here. But maybe Lee Sin is more comfortable for Levi. We know he's a Lee Sin god.
It's Lee Sin, Vi, and Kha'Zix.
He is a Lee Sin god, but I feel like you're looking at a Tristana and a LeBlanc. Like, they're standing too far away. I think Lee Sin struggles here already. But we have only got half the comp.
And now it's wait and see how Wales will run the other. I also think that Vi is like the most likely option here. I think having like a Kha'Zix would not be too good because with LeBlanc usually would want a strong early game jungler. The Kha'Zix kind of just needs to farm up and he doesn't really have any crowd control on his own and you're kind of gambling on everything going wide for you. And it will be the Renekton again. I think Renekton Vi would be the most likely option. But they are quite AD heavy in this regard, but probably should be fine in general. As the GAM composition is also not that tanky overall. And for Kiaya, I expect just to go for Cassandra again. It's just a very likely pick. He could go something like a Nar maybe, but I expect Cassandra.
Very heavy on the dive now. This could be almost a bit too much for my liking. So Kai'Sa is not the greatest ADC into dive because she doesn't have the defensive tools of Azaya or the range of some of the other ADCs. So maybe that's a good strategy to go on top of the Kai'Sa and just eliminate her in team fights. It's a bit risky though. I feel like Wales was doing really well with kiting back and just buying space for Artemis. This is not really the way to play this team composition. You have to dive a little bit more aggressively to really kill all the GAM members. A lot of low-range champions on both sides of the rift, so this is gonna be quite the bloodbath, I feel like.
It very well could be, as Ornn is locked in at the end, something Kiai has shown great proficiency on consistently throughout his career. Very, very interesting comps from both sides, honestly. This is brawl. I feel like this is like one of the most just raw, better hands wins.
It kind of is. I actually kind of like Team Wales stuff, so I think GAM will win this game. But all jokes aside, I think what kind of speaks in Wales' favor is the following thing. Like, there's so much close-range brawling, and then there's Artemis on Tristana, who, the longer the game goes, the more levels he picks up, the more he outranges, like, literally every other champion on the Rift here. And there's, of course, with Artemis having a great day, kind of speaks in their favor to great effects. And I also like the lane matchup that Wales really went through. The rough one's probably just that you have Nautilus into the well, which isn't really that good for the Nautilus, as he just engages in it, bites his own teeth out, and LeBlanc against any could be problematic, but it should be a very comfortable matchup for the side of Sparta, because the Ornn can do surprisingly well against Renekton, but he can never really beat the Renekton.
Yeah, if this wasn't Wales playing, I would say this team composition has a really good side lane advantage into GAM's composition with especially LeBlanc. No one can answer LeBlanc later on. I mean, Ornn can kind of just clear waves, but then you're trading Ornn in the side lane against LeBlanc in the side lane, which is most of the time favorable, especially later on in the game, to have the Ornn just stuck in the side, inside, and Tristana pushes with the rest of the team. So I feel like if this was secret, I would be more confident in blue side here, so Wales, but unfortunately Wales hasn't really shown us a good performance on the side waves, so let's see if they can fix that kind of issue. So far, all their games have been, let's brute force 5v5 fights. They literally just won the game a few minutes ago with brute force 5v5, so maybe that's their downfall here, because I think their composition does really well in a 1-3-1 or a 4-1 setup.
And on to the Rift we go for game number 2. Something to keep an eye on, of course, is Lee Sin for Levi. Obviously, such an explosive champion. He is incredible on it. Like, Lee Sin is not really meta at the moment, but basically every elite jungler is just a freak on Lee Sin. So we know that Levi can absolutely play it. It's just a question of what he can actually do up against this comp, because I feel like there's a lot of repositioning tools that make any big kicks a lot less effective.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, he doesn't really have like this prime target to really go for the kick for. I mean, not just that Blanc and Tristana are like high range, they also are like quite mobile, and Tristana could potentially just bust or shoot your face out of it, so it won't be easy for him. And the Renekton, I mean, do you really want to kick a Renekton? It's a question. I mean, you could actually just go for the non-insect and just kick Renekton into the enemy team and just go with that way of dealing damage to them, because you actually deal quite a decent bit of it. But this is not something that you really want to pick Lee Sin for. So I kind of question the pick overall, but I gotta say it is Levi. It is his best champion historically, and I mean, of course, he can deal something that kind of are way past rational analysis. I gotta say he is pathing towards his bot side. I would expect him to be, as he started on his red buff on the red side. And with BJ starting on his own red buff, it could just be Sparta getting an early gank for the side of BJ to really just throw Ki off.
Yeah, a bit of an engage there by Paulette. Does manage to get a good chunk down onto Artemis, but it was answered back quite nicely onto Slater. So all works out even in the end. But with Levi potentially showing his first gank towards the bot side, that early damage may end up mattering.
Yeah, he's currently pathing down there. They would have to dive most likely. I don't think the wave is going to be in the state where he has a comfortable gank, so maybe just full clear into reset. Which is a little surprising if you think about Vi and Lee Sin as junglers. What did BJ just do? That was very surprising. He just checked his bottom side jungle and then went top side again. Very interesting. Not entirely sure what that was about, but now he's back on the top side. Top lane is a little too pushed in for him to do anything, but Levi is here for the dive. Can they make it happen? It's so risky. Oh, Paulette, oh no.
How are they going? Paulette has absolutely beansed this. That was a shocker.
What was that? I just don't quite understand what Paulette was trying to do. The wave wasn't really fully in, and he was already getting hooked by CBL. He actually kind of flashed into it and kind of delivered himself on the silver platter there, and Team Wales is very happy about it. I think even if he doesn't go for that, just with the information Team Wales have, it isn't really a clean dive to play out for the side of GAM, so I'm very questioning this move in general, as Kati gets tagged by the chain, and Team Wales off for a great start, and yeah, Kiaya kind of surviving the onslaught on the top side with Vi actually not going for a gank, but being probably happy to just farm on his own and just getting the top scuttle for now, and now even going for the enemy chickens of Levi.
Look, I have to admit, this is great rel roleplay, because he's gone into poopy pants form because he just shit himself.
Ouch. Like, he is in turret range and then he flexed into it even further.
Yeah, he tried to mind game them by not engaging with the obvious engage, right? So instead of going W first and then flashing for the stun, he tried to flash Q and then go for the W. Unfortunately for him, he flashed into a position where he was already not able to jump out again. Then it was super easy for CBL to just block his escape, and with a flash used aggressively and his disengage, in this case the W, not available to him, he was dead to rights instantly. So very strange execution there, as we have to dive in top lane now.
Let's see if Team Wales can manage it any better. As a lovely knock up there by Kiaya. Sparta in a little bit of trouble. They can just disengage this. Kiaya is still alive. There's a flash forward, but look who's here. It's Lee Sin.
A hero is here in time just to help his top laner. Levi finally on the map, on the rift with his first big impact play.
Let's not go under towers. It's a silly place.
Yeah.
I cannot really fault Team Wales for just going for the dive. I mean, in general, it makes sense, but you knew that Lee Sin was on the bot side earlier, so you kind of should have... Chloe has him! Chloe has him! He had like 10 HP or something.
And now Paulette locked up. In goes Artemis, has the explosive pack on, just murders him. Are they going to keep it going? Slater used the W there. Artemis could re-engage, but doesn't need to. Can play it safe. CBL going low, but has the shield. Artemis Slater going forward. Look who's here. It's BJ.
I don't know. I mean, we have 2 color casters here, but we probably need like 3 or 4 or 5 to really make sense of this.
I think we need 3, 4, or 5 play-by-plays at this point.
that as well. Either way, what I think was kind of funny there was CBL wanted to go in further, and Artemis didn't want to. CBL flashed offensively for the offensive attack, and Artemis was like, no, we don't do this. Then suddenly they are really scared of me right now. I should just go for the 1v2 and chase into them. And then BJ was also around, and then he was kind of screwed. But it's kind of sad to see. And either way,
Okay, we need like
gutsy
3
place
replays.
though. Look at this. This was so gutsy. I did not see this. Wow, Glory knew his range. Of course, he hit level 6, right? So he sees he's gonna hit level 6, and then he has the ultimate, but still so close. Well, if that goes wrong, he wasted his flash and his level 6 advantage. But let's take a look here. Really good execution on Palette, and I actually like the follow-up from CBL as he flashed on top of Slater. Unfortunately, Artemis, he could have W'd on top of Slater, but it was so close. I think he's too scared, and then suddenly CBL is in a really bad position. The turnaround from CBL after Slater flashed forward, absolutely incredible. And then BJ, in the nick of time, arrives in bot lane, executes Slater, and suddenly it's 4-1 and killed.
No, there was a minion that he threw a W, and a random minion jumped in front of him like a Secret Service agent. Oh my word. Everything is aligning for the Whales right now.
Absolutely the case. Yes, I mean, we need to remember this failed dive on top side, right? Where I couldn't really fault them for actually going for this. But there was also like Levi just getting off the recall, being at the right place at the right time, and also Team Wales not really cleanly executing it, right? With Sparta taking the turret, having to go out early, not really dealing damage to the Ornn, and Kiaya living also with like 20 HP or something. As of course, in general, topside is going quite well for Kiaya actually. Like, he's even against the Renekton in the early game, which is something we usually don't see that much from the Ornn side.
Yeah, nowadays, I mean, a lot of the Ornns are actually able to stay somewhat even in CS, and of course, Kiaya is the best CSer or the best laner in the VCS. If we look at the stats throughout the summer, plus 14 CS on average, that is really high. So not a big surprise to me that he's doing super well on one of the signature champions. BJ's here, not spotted by the ward because that's pink. Okay, now he spots himself. And Slater, of course, has to back off. Good read there from Slater not to die to another dive. This bot lane is a little bit of a pressure point now, though, for Wales, because Tristana 6, they have a lot of burst damage, and Kai'Sa can't really stand up to Tristana level 6.
In trouble. Bit of chain CC, locked down. W's over the wall, but of course the Q's there to follow. He just stepped up way too close. Sparta is in the Dominus. They're going for this. Levi has been one shot, but they answer back onto the Renekton. CBL wandering up. The CDs are down for GAM. We could continue this, but they just choose to peel onto the Herald.
It is a 2-for-1 for the side of GAM, of course. Levi having great patience on the Resonating Strike to just wait it out to really follow the ability spell from Glory, as we see. Something we shouldn't have seen, but it is a war of attrition that Wales actually is winning in the moment right here because they just pulled the bot lane up to the Herald. So actually they secure the Herald, but they also sacrificed one plating on the bot side itself. So it's not the end of the world at all for the side of GAM. They also won the fight itself, so really an even trade overall.
Yeah, a bit too risky for my liking. I mean, they're probably feeling themselves after dominating this early game in terms of skirmishes. A very risky decision. It kind of works out for them. The swap cost Artemis quite a bit of his early game CS lead. I mean, he's now back to 15 CS, so maybe I'm lying, but still, they had more than a 2k gold lead. Now they gave up the dragon with this swap and didn't really get too much gold out of this either. I feel like overall, you have to say that was GAM winning the last 2 minutes of play. Now with the first dragon, it's going to delay the dragon potential snowball power spike later on for Wales as well, which was on the cards, especially with this very strong mid-game composition. So GAM kind of sneaking away a little victory for themselves after a rough early game.
Yeah, just a little bit faster to the punch.
Also, like they were behind and they traded up a small objective over there with winning that small fight. So definitely something that they are more happy with overall, I gotta say. And Kiaya, is he really diveable is a question. Now it's Artemis pulling up the way for the Tristana, but Kiaya looks very beefy. He must have like 200 armor or something. So definitely not that easy to kill.
Yeah, but there is no help coming. Palette is the closest, and he's got to run up the entire lane. They just call in a teleport. You're happy with that. You take that. You get a plate onto Artemis, and you just leave.
That's actually really bad for GAM now for their map positioning because Mid lane, actually, yeah, okay. Lurie's not there to punish. I think Lurie should have just hard pushed mid lane here and forced Gam's hand a little bit more instead of trying to sneak away one jungle objectives. That's the high value play if you make it happen, but I think it's more consistent to just get the plate in mid lane. Artemis, in the meantime, is still in Tristana pushing in the top lane, so this tower is under a lot of pressure, and especially when BeanJ finally decides to use the Herald, they might just get the first tower and top lane. No, instead they shift their attention to the other side of the map. Let's see where BeanJ goes next. It seems like bot lane is the next area of attack for BeanJ.
Yeah, they're just trying to find sort of the weakness in the armor for GAM at the moment, but GAM is putting up such a good fight. Kiaya just being that rock in the top lane.
I just wonder though if that's really a good option for set of GAM, because while they aren't scaling poorly.
Hang on, Sparta takes life very low, gets that ultimate to get away.
That should be first tower though, because BeanJ is here. BeanJ was planning for this. This is really nicely set up. Okay, once again a teleport force. But GAM is really on the defensive here. The whole passage over the last 2, 3, 4 minutes is all in in Wales' favor, and they haven't really profited too much, but they're slowly chipping away at the tower plates. They still have the Herald in the back pocket. They need to use it soon, though. I think it's running out of time. If you look at it, it has like 10% time left, I believe. So they need to make use of it before it expires, but they forced 2 teleports now. Almost got the dive done in bot lane. GAM just limping away, barely alive. If any of these plays go wrong, the game is in a really bad state for them. But for now, they get out of it fine, somewhat fine.
Yeah, and it's actually going better for Wales than expected, I would always say, with Slayer just now being forced away by Sparta. Sparta almost having the slice and dice up again, with the minion bridge being there. Him being able to force away Kai'Sa and run is definitely something that you usually would not expect to see. And now the dagger is basically in, it's just Wales that really need to twist it. And the Herald is timing out. I think they could just use it in either lane to just get a little bit more of a lead. And some point I wanted to bring on before it's the following thing. If GAM surviving for now, it didn't, they just use it. Is GAM not really also going for really huge of a scaling win over there, I just gotta say. I mean, the Annie will just get out pushed by the LeBlanc all game now, with LeBlanc having the static over there, and the Kai'Sa struggles in the range department against the Tristana, so it's also not going great in this regard, and Team Wales absolutely makes GAM swim right now.
Yeah, I love this play from BeanJ. BeanJ just covering so the Herald will actually charge, and now he's going for the solo kill on the other side on Levi. While
Kiaya is doing the same, but Buster Shot will get Artemis to safety. CBL now just kind of has to deal with getting bonked with the hammer, but should be fine. No one really goes down, but Wales did get the gold onto Artemis.
That was a bit sweaty, maybe going for a bit too much there from the side of Wales, but in the end they got 2 more power tower plates. I think only 1 went over to Artemis, so not perfect on the gold execution there, or distribution, I should say, but it's alright, and still winning play over the course of the last 5 minutes. Set up by Wales in what I have to say is one of their most impressive macro sequences in all of playoffs. This was really well set up. Not quite as profitable as I thought it would be, but still a winning play overall. And now with the 2k gold lead into the mid game, the next objective has to be the dragon.
Absolutely has to be. I mean, they were not forcing away this TPs from GAM for nothing, right? I mean, that's at least what I hope for. I mean, it should exactly net them an advantage. Either have a Drake fight where GAM is actually around and they can just push the side-ins anymore and get a win over there, or just get the Drake themselves. I think getting the Drake themselves should be much of their priority, because you don't want GAM to have like a Drake soul stack win condition. It wouldn't be Infernal or Mountain Soul, so it's probably not a great soul you could already maybe kind of gamble on right now, but you still just don't want GAM to have anything in this game. This is now you being in the driver's seat on the side of Team Wales, and you should just keep pressuring forward, and you have both your carries in leading positions. Actually, Sparta not doing too well, but he's a Renekton. It won't be a big deal anyway. He will just be a mediocre champion in the late game anyway, so you're fine in that regard. And maybe they just sacrifice Sparta for the Drake.
Yeah, well, they're committing a lot to try and get Sparta. They will get him. Really nice CC chain, and they're not going to get the Drake. Wales actually brought members up to try and reinforce. I think only Glory needs to be here. I feel like the rest of Wales should have already been hitting a dragon.
I hate this. This is just chasing a losing play while you are in the winning position. You just sacrifice Sparta, get the Drake. Like, who cares? If he's 0-1 or 0-2, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely
Exactly.
agree. This is one of the issues we had with Wales in some of their earlier series. They usually get run around the map quite a bit by the better macro teams. Let's see how they can recover. There's GAM going for the aggressive play, but the teleport is coming in for Wales as well.
Yeah, Kiaya is dissuaded as Paulette taking a hell of a lot of damage. Carty gets that Vi ult in on first kill, will go over, but traded back. BJ going down. Artemis getting knocked up by Kiaya's ultimate, trying to find the way into this fight, but he's really struggling. Wales are just getting kind of cleaned up. Artemis has the opportunity to go absolutely massive, but has so much adversity to overcome. With that Q missing from the Lee Sin, good flash to get away from Kiaya.
How does GAM pull these out? How do they win from that position? That is completely insane. The ADC was in such a bad spot at the start of the fight, but in the end they walk away with one positive kill trait, and they get the Herald as well. This is the magic of GAM and their team fighting. Their insane mechanics and team fighting instincts always come through at some point in the series. What a performance to make the game, to get the game back in a more even.
We can't go to a replay right now. This is a badly timed replay, VCS.
Yeah, we get it in the picture, so it will probably just be the Herald for the side of GAM, and then them walking out, but here we see the fight itself again. CBA getting kill. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, don't get the things to replay.
Yeah, no,
What a
we have a
surprise.
fight as Artemis is tagged up, then jumps away, uses the blast cone pretty interestingly. It works out. He gets the kill. The spider actually picks up the kill. He's kiting it out. He's walking it away, managing to pick up another kill. That's 2 members of GAM down.
And I just gotta say it, if Artemis wouldn't be such a mechanical prodigy, it would be GAM leading the game by now. I mean, with those the two just well-played fight from behind, but Artemis is just better. He's just really perfect in timing with his kiting and just not getting killed by either Levi during the blast plant shenanigans, and also the on later on. Also, the fight before with the searing charge being flashed perfectly by him. Usually, like GAM against any other VCS team would have gotten a full ace over there, but against Artemis you just can't. And now, even with these bad macro decisions by Team Wales, they still get this Drake that they didn't really deserve to get. As here we finally see the replay from the fight beforehand, that GAM kind of won. It was Vada not really having good timing with the DP and the dominance, I just gotta say, because he didn't really use the dominance in the fight, if I remember correctly.
This is the second fight. This is the one we
it's a
watched.
You're actually right. Yeah, just not figured out. Yeah, the blast plant kind of saving him here, and he's still like in the face of a Lee Sin. If Lee Sin gets one auto off of him, he's just dead. And Artemis just kites away for half an hour now and kills both the Lee Sin and the Orn.
He's just better. He's just better.
He was a bit lucky there with the plant. I think he activated the plant and got away 2-3 centimeters, so the Lee Sin didn't actually get the auto attack range for the last executing auto attack. But even if Artemis goes down there, I don't think that actually mattered for the fight outcome, because he contributed like 1 or 2 more auto attacks, maybe with a Kraken Slayer proc, but he had no resets, he had no mana to continue fighting. So I feel like the whole decision for GAM to keep fighting there was not great. They won the last fight, they could have reset the map, went for a dragon play, but instead they just overstayed, got a bit too greedy, got a bit too aggressive, chasing down the enemy ADC that just mocked them in the last game. So I feel like GAM just a bit scrambled when it comes to the decision making, and suddenly now if we look at Artemis again in the next fight, that's 2 items done, and that is quite a scary Tristana. Scaling up in terms of range as well, level 12 already. That's something like 620 range, so he is the highest range champion in the game already, and it's only gonna get worse for the enemy team.
And the closest contender would be the Annie with her auto attacks, and like, who cares about any auto attacks anyway, right? So definitely something where Artemis is very happy about. I mean, and also addressed it during draft, right? So many close range champions, and Artemis just sitting on top of them. I mean, even for AD carries, Kaiser not really having a huge range because she's kind of the assassin AD carry. And Artemis, yeah, you're kind of right, I gotta say, like, his damage output in the fight itself wasn't really that important. It was more just GAM going for a very greedy decision. But I cannot fault GAM really for it, because I mean, GAM, they are kind of known to really like get these comebacks in winning fights like these. They just won 1 or 2 of those beforehand, and them going for this one is not something I can really fault them for. And Levi is very, very eager to make a play.
Yes, Sparta is in the dominus. In goes Levi. Big heal. BJ gets yoinked back by the Magnet Storm. But what are we fighting over? Kiaya with a lovely ult to section them off. They do just get the random kill onto BJ.
That was one of the most forced kills I've ever seen, and it somehow worked. I guess Wales wasn't there to really execute on the defense.
It shouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I don't think Levi should go for this again. Levi is playing unbelievably aggressively here in these neutral situations, just to get a kick on Sparta. Don't think the target selection was perfect, but they do get the kill. They don't really get any objectives out of this, and they need to readjust their thinking in these in this whole best of 5, honestly, because the way they start teamfights so far, or they have started teamfight, I should say, has not been great, not really favorable for their compositions, for their teamfights. So sit back a bit, think about what you're doing, and maybe readjust what you're actually fighting for, because so far it looks like GAM's a bit too aggressive, maybe a little bit, just too instinctive, I feel like.
And I gotta say, I probably sound salty by saying this because GAM just made a positive play, but this play should never work. When you're behind it, you just tunnel vision onto the most tanky champions on enemy team, and they just don't reiterate the fire onto you, basically, and that's why you get the kill. Luckily for Wales, however, I mean, no really big objective was really up. I mean, the Baron was up, but it was 21 minutes, and you can't really force it 5v4 in this situation without getting turned on. So it was kind of Team Wales just having a little bit of a small L in this situation and nothing big really coming out of it, no huge consequences. But this play probably shouldn't have worked. And GAM overall in this series, they look kind of bad, right? I mean, they play against a substitute support with their former support not really being around, and they don't look like the favorites right now.
Yeah, let's actually spend a minute on CBL, because he hasn't played in such a long time. He's not been a starting player for the whole year, but of course he is a former VCS champion. Actually won his title against GAM of all people, against Palette of all people on the other side back in 2020. So CBL, he came back from such a long absence, and his first 2 games, okay, he was gifted a little bit of a kill early in this game, but he's playing super well. He's not inting. He's setting up the team fights well for his ADC, for all the other members as well. 2 Nautilus games, so maybe that's an area of attack for GAM. Try to isolate this player that hasn't played professionally in such a long time. But he's close to a 2-0 now on this Nautilus pick, and that would be a big story. If CBL could come back, replace B, and beat GAM again as one of the very few support players able to do so, what a story that would be.
Really would be. That would be pretty incredible. Artemis is sitting at that 2.5 items as we get ready for a dragon fight. So I'm keeping my eye on the other side. Slater at 2 items as well. Does have that upgraded Navori as well. Has the flicker. Carty chunked out by Glory. In they go. They find their path in onto Slater. Orn ult called in, immediately making space. This has gone horribly for Team Wales. They had no follow-up. Sparta in the backside. They cannot get to Slater. Artemis having to jump out. He would have to do absolute miracles here. Paulette going down. I'm feeling a miracle. As, I don't think he can keep this one going. But GAM are forced back. They're not going to get the objective off this.
And this is kind of how I expected this one GAM pick to really go the way for GAM last time. This is just Team Wales going for the chase onto the tanky members, tunnel visioning onto them, and just not being able to kill them. And Artemis, just because he is a strong player, can at least get 1 kill in return as a consolation prize. But now GAM is actually on the Baron. BJ was one of the people dying there. He's just now respawned and rushing his way towards the Baron to maybe prevent something going on over there. And Team Wales now indecisive. They aren't really going for the Drake itself, and they also can't stop the Baron.
This is a bit like game number 1. GAM gets the Baron, but can they walk away? Can they save the Baron?
TP?
There is a TP coming. Glory is playing one side of the pincer, taking a bit of damage on the side. BJ coming in with the ultimate, but he just flashes out immediately. This is shocking team fighting from Wales. GAM now, they don't even want to back off. They've got such health bar leads that they can potentially take a fight.
Didn't I talk about this in draft? Team Wales' composition was way too dive heavy, that they would over the tunnel vision on the dive and go too far. That was exactly what happened in the last fight. They did get on top of Slater, but not with Artemis, so they were lacking the damage. Laurie wasn't there either. They have two assassin kind of backliners, and neither was on top of Slater to execute. It was just the two frontliners. That's not enough damage. Really nice flash from Kati there as well to get on top of Sparta. And Slater almost dies to Sparta, but at this point the fight is almost over because Artemis doesn't have the damage to cut through Kiaya in time. Maybe if he has two more items, but honestly, Tristana against Ornn, it's not the fastest. Tristana is not the fastest at killing a full tank, so instead he pivots to get the kill onto the support, and if he has a little bit more damage, he might be able to chase everyone down, but not in this case. And this is a huge swing for the game. It's a deja vu for the last game. This time around, it's GAM, though, that comes back and is finally suddenly in a winning position.
I don't know how, but Team Wales somehow got this Ocean Drake all of a sudden as well. I was ready to criticize them for getting neither the Drake or the Baron. Either way, in this fight, we just now also thought like Team Wales is fighting like they have the Kai'Sa and not the Tristana, and it's the top side just going for heavy dive, while Artemis just wants to front to back. So they're kind of not on the same page as a team, and they maybe just die on the defending turret.
Sparta in the middle of the team. CBL gets soloed out, taken down. BJ will follow him, and Team Wales are just getting evaporated. They looked so good halfway through this game, and then they have just completely collapsed. That's going to be Slater picking up a triple, should turn it into a quadra, and does. And just like game one, an ADC quadra kill will close it out. And frankly, in some of the worst League of Legends I've ever watched, GAM will take game two.
Oh, that's very rough. But I think GAM really executed on these last two teamfights well. Okay, Wales overextended, they overchased into the backline, but GAM with the counterpunch, they knew exactly where to position to kind of invite Wales to overextend, right? They positioned themselves pretty aggressively around the tower, and this was exactly how Wales won against Secret. So Wales seized the opportunity, they overchase as they always do. All the VCS teams can't hold back when they have any engaged potential, and GAM punished them masterfully. Wrestles away game number 2. This should have been a 2-0 setup for Wales. Just 5 minutes ago, we talked about CBL sitting at 2-0 against GAM, and now it's equalized. GAM steals game number 2, and we are all even at 1-1.
And what a storyline it would have been if the Wales actually would have won this game, right? With having this 8-0 start, then 0-5 going down. We kind of got a little bit of a glimpse of both sides of the Team Wales coin, right? I mean, it was just now the second game, more of them kind of destroying themselves on the Rift a little bit. And yeah, should have been a 2-0 for them, but now it isn't. Better draft always loses, and we are back to 1-1.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, GAM played well. I was making a comment on Team Wales. I think they played just absolutely shocking. Kiaya, I have to shout out though. What a performance. Every single ultimate was perfectly placed, peeling everything back, really making it impossible for Wales. But I'm going to stop being a whiny little baby, and we're going to go to a little break, and then we'll bring you game 3 in just a little bit. See you soon.
The unknown terror that stood alone.
Welcome back, everybody. It is 1-1 as GAM equal up the scores. And what a performance it was from them. Kiaya playing the perfect bouncer to get them back to level. Your way, what are your takeaways from game number 2?
Disengage always wins in VCS because people always overchase. But very impressive game from Kiaya and Slater in the end there, I think, especially in the last few team fights. Slater really finding his mark on the Kaiser. It almost looked like they had to go away from the Kaiser after game number 1 and 2. But Slater really stepped up in this game. Very different build as well. Decided to go for AD Kaiser variant, so a little more consistent in the DPS department if you go AD Kaiser. Not much focus on the W poke, and really more about executing and hitting the big crits. Interesting decision. He can play both, and he's the Kaiser expert, so we expect him to know what he's doing. And in the end, yeah, GAM kind of steals game number 2, but Team Wales stole game number 1, so it's all even. I feel like it's fair for this series to be 1-1 at this point.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Like 1-1 is a good representation of how the teams are really doing so far. And we just know for the damage graph, right? Actually, most damage to champions was actually Kiaya on this on. So it's absolutely disgusting what this man did just now this game. I mean, if we had like MVP votes, it would absolutely be Kiaya. I think that would be undisputed among us 3 over there. And yeah, I addressed it earlier in a different context, but yeah, the Kaiser item build kind of changed. The more consistent DPS definitely helping Slater out in this game. And Team Wales just kind of gifted it away. I gotta say, though, regardless of the results and everything we have seen so far, they need to have like something different going on for the side of Sparta, especially in my opinion. His full Necken was not winning lane against the Cassante, not winning lane against the Ornn, and I mean, of course, you don't want Kiaya to have it. That's maybe why he's picking it. But maybe there's like some change needed for him. Maybe he should just pick the Cassante himself.
Yeah, maybe. So far, Sparta has been somewhat unimpressive. Going forward into game 3, what do we want to see changed up? How, I mean, you both predicted GAM. So how do they get a lead in this series your way?
I don't think they really have to change much. I feel like a different ADC would be an interesting choice because they are really struggling in the laning phase so far with the Kaiser against both Aphelios and also now against Tristana. Okay, Tristana is kind of expected. If you get a kill, it really snowballs quite heavily. But maybe try a different ADC. I know Slater loves his Kaiser. He just plays Kaiser whenever it's open. He has like 100 games on Kaiser or something, but still feel like a little bit more stability through the bot side could help GAM out. They have top lane with Kiaya going great. Their mid lane was not great in the last game, but really good in the first game. So I would really like to attack bot lane a little bit more, try to go through the laning phase and maybe set up a little bit more success for Slater before it comes to the 4-item mark, like in the last game.
And if you have to play for the other side, Quincy, how does Wales get themselves up to a 2-1 lead?
I actually kind of like what they do in draft just now, aside from what they did with Sparta overall. So I think they are definitely on the right track in that regard. I think maybe BeanJ's Vi wasn't really the best pick he could have gone for. Maybe there should have been like an angle where he just goes for the Nocturne and they just don't ban it or something. But I just got it. Them forcing Levi on towards the Lee Sin and then just getting the Vi themselves was kind of fine. So I think in the draft department, they kind of did well. I just got to say they just misexecuted it mostly on the Rift. And I got to say, with the priorities of the team set straight so far, we might just go for a long series where it's always Wales on the blue side and GAM on the red side because both teams just like the respective side more. I mean, they just both had side selection once, and Wales is just a blue side team, and GAM seems to like red side, which most top teams don't do. But apparently, GAM just really wants to work well. Especially, I mean, of course, because they have the better top laner. Like this potential of an R5 counter pick top lane is just too good for them.
And we're going into game number 3, which is my favorite game in any best of 5 in League of Legends. I feel like it's so... If the games are close, if the teams are close, game number 3 always offers so much interesting stuff to think about, to talk about. Because right now, we had 2 pretty similar games in terms of compositions. A little bit more aggressive from Wales, or a little bit more dive heavy in the second game. But still the same kind of priorities. We have LeBlanc playing a huge role. We have Tristana being quite a big pick, Kaiser for the other side, and then a little bit of pinching in the jungle position with the AD junglers for Levi. So we've kind of established some sort of mold for the whole draft, and now the question becomes: does any of the team, one of the teams, I should say, break out of the mold? Because last time we had this kind of situation in the Team Secret against Wales scenario. Team Secret tried to play their secret weapon, in Irelia. It really didn't work, and then Wales came in Game 5 and had a completely different draft. So Wales has shown us that they can do this, and GAM, of course, is a long-standing champion. They should be able to do this too. I'm so fascinated to see what either of these teams come up with. If they have something in the back of their sleeves, some sort of secret weapon, maybe a new ADC, maybe a new jungler. Let's see.
Zach, the secret weapon. Maybe this is one for the side of
I
Levi.
mean-
there were so many junglers, Ben, might as well pick it, right?
I mean, Levi unironically plays it. He's a great Zach. He
I
plays
know.
a lot of it. I want to see Artemis going back to strength as well. The Tristana, it made sense in the draft, but do you need to first pick LeBlanc? Can you first pick Tristana and just put it mid? Instead of sort of locking yourself into this LeBlanc every game. Interestingly enough, I think we'll probably stay on the same sides of the draft because it's now Wales picking, but Wales are probably picking blue, unlike GAM that have just been picking red.
I actually like this idea, I just gotta say. Like, just pick Tristana and then just wait and see what happens, right? I mean, you could still decide later on if it's mid lane or bot lane and just follow it up, just potentially where Kai'Sa on the enemy team goes, and then just you have one good matchup secured as well as we see. What a surprise, Wales is blue and GAM is red side. And now we see GAM banning away, potentially the LeBlanc, but I think they're probably not that afraid of it. They ban the Sejuani, and I think Wales will pick LeBlanc again, but I also want them to pick Tristana here.
Yeah, Tristana is quite a strong one, but it just lost the game, so maybe they're not. Ooh, that is another interesting little change, because as you teased earlier, Quincy, this can actually go into the mid lane, into LeBlanc. So if Carty picks up the LeBlanc, this could just go to the mid lane again. Okay, the Tristana counter.
They just picked Tristana though.
Oh, I like this. This is an interesting adaptation. So we could... If Wales still wants to go LeBlanc, they have to contend with the hard matchup into Tristana, potentially. Or they go a completely different route and try to counter the Tristana, potentially coming into the mid lane. But then the enemy team can also go to Tristana bot lane. So there's a lot of flexing, a lot of mind games going on here. Exactly what we would like to see. Ooh, Poppy. Was banned last game.
A very
So
quick
next
rotation, I
round.
gotta say. And I actually don't like the LeBlanc here because it will probably be the Tristana mid, but I would have wanted to see would be maybe like Lois Ari over there to just really have a bit more of a contested fire situation, or something like the Jace if he happens to fancy his shadows on that one, and that would also be in the heavy poke department together with a potential AP Kai'Sa, but they just go for the LeBlanc again. I mean, together with the Poppy, you can actually lock down the Tristana, so it's definitely not that easy to play for the side of Carty. And now we can maybe see if Zeri is still that strong. I mean, Slayer just now going for this one. And I mean, it was also one of the champions that sometimes Wales played instead of Artemis, not too much success. And it was banned in the first game, second rotation, which UA, as you pointed out, was maybe doing Team Wales a little favor. So let's wait and see if it is an Artemis issue or if it is a Zeri issue.
Yeah, Zeri really not wanting to dominate lane, so not going the way I wanted to see for GAM, to be honest. I wanted to see a little bit more pressure through the bot lane, a little bit more laning prowess. Lulu banned away. So they're reading this as a Levi Rel for the first time, which is a very interesting adaptation. Finally, the Nautilus is banned, which is something I wanted to see. Force the player that hasn't played professionally for such a long time onto his secondary, his third champion. They banned Blitzcrank in game number 1, and there it is. It's banned again. So now he has to go to either the not so optimal Thresh in the meta, or he has to go into some meta champion that he hasn't played on stage, something like Alistar, Leona.
Pike has a hook. I'm just saying.
Pike has a
CBL.
hook.
It has to have a hook, so it's Thresh or Pike.
Please do not go Pike. I mean, his Pike is decent on stage.
Would be a
Like,
banger. Like, would be fun to watch, but it's probably bad. I'm kind of torn on this, but I actually want to see his Pike, but I also want to see them do well in the series, so maybe not so much. Either way, they ban Gwen as well. That kind of tells me that they maybe want to blind Cassandra.
Yeah, they want Cassanti, so they ban Gwen because it's too much of a win condition. GAM should know this, so maybe GAM picks away the Cassanti here. KI had a really good game number 1. Ooh. I like the Rumble always. I think Rumble is just a really good champion. It beats Renekton nowadays in lane. It obviously beats Cassandra for the most part too. So
It has no hard counter.
yeah.
But what do you
it's
pick
really,
against
really
Rumble that
fun
actually
lane.
wins? Like maybe something range, but you can't really pick range top laners at the moment. Could be Na being the best option, but even mini Na gets cooked literally by the Rumble, and they go for the Cassandra. It is not even blind in this situation. And yeah, CBL needs to pick a hook support. We addressed it, right? Fresh has a hook, but the Leona is also not that unlikely. I like the Nautilus one as well, not just because it's CBL's combo, but it's also a champion that really just screws around with Zeri in general, and they can't pick Vi anymore, so the guaranteed lockdown isn't really there. CBL's solar flares need to be devastating to have a good impact on the map for the side of Team Wales. If CBL isn't really ready to play Leona, I mean, she's not really that much of a hard champion, then Team Wales has a huge problem over there. But the Leona as a pick in general, I like it. It really fits well together with the Kai'Sa.
Okay, and it will actually be the Braum in the bot lane. Braum, completely underappreciated champion, or grossly, I should say, underappreciated champion in the VCS. So strong. We have seen it a lot over in the LEC. And just the E buffs to it, where you now max the E to get 55% damage reduction, essentially gives you an Alistar ultimate if you play it correctly. He is insanely tanky and gives Zeri a little bit of safety. They are probably not the greatest combo in terms of dominating lane, because both of these champions aren't that strong in the laning phase, but against Leona it should be fine. And Braum in the late game is just a menace. One of the better scaling melee supports. So I feel like this pivot and the read, especially on Levi's Rel here, was good from both teams. I did not expect the Rel to go into the jungle position because we haven't really seen it. It's kind of unprecedented. They really like the Rel in the support position for Palette, but this time they changed it up and Levi is now on, well, tank duty, I guess.
It's engage duty. Hey, what's really the difference between Rel and Wukong? They're basically the same champion. They jump forward and then have a circle. Same thing, right?
Someone who's never played either of these champions, I think.
It's called being facetious. I've definitely played Wukong and have looked at Rel. No one actually plays Rel. Come on, let's be honest. But moving on, let's take it a little bit seriously. A very different look out of Wales, I feel. Artemis going onto this Kai'Sa, taking that away from Slater. You can't front to back team fight anymore. That's always been what Artemis is best at. He's fantastic in front to back team fights. Quincy, how do you really expect him to handle the Kai'Sa that has to play so differently?
I mean, with this Kai'Sa pickup, they kind of forced themselves into the assassination, and I think Hankai Loki just kind of cooked Rail meat in this draft, because I mean they also have Braum and Rail on his side. It's Kiaya will win the top lane matchup anyway, and have a good mid lane matchup with the Tristana into the LeBlanc. You have a good bot lane support matchup that is essential in games like these. The Well kind of being like the big surprise pick, I gotta say, as well as you did, because it could go badly against the Poppy, and this Poppy LeBlanc mid lane jungle access on the side of Wales really needs to get going this game. Otherwise, I think GAM just beats them.
Yeah, there's a little bit of damage concern for sure for the side of Wales, especially if Artemis opts into the AP build, because then you have LeBlanc with some missing 100 AP because of static shift, and then on the other side also Artemis going for the hybrid build, which is strong, which deals a lot of damage, especially if you go for the full on hit through the Rage Blade, but it takes a while to scale up. It's not quite as strong on 2 items, so I feel like Wales really needs to get going, and I agree with you, Quincy. There's huge pressure on Glory to perform, because I feel like if he falls behind, it's kind of doomed in the mid game for them. They will severely lack damage to cut through Palette and kind of be on even terms with Kiaya, because he spikes at level 11 and around Dragon number 2-3. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on Glory here.
And just in general, right? I mean, the front to back options aren't really looking too hot, right? Playing against double AD carries yet again. The Kai'Sa also going for the Hail of Blades, which tells me that it's probably some kind of assassination build. Otherwise, it would probably be something like the lethal tempo going on her side. And in general, it will probably be them just having to burst on the target pretty quickly, despite not having the reset comp, and then maybe go away from there in the skirmishes. Otherwise, in these fair 5v5 teamfights, GAM should have the upper hand pretty much always.
Of course, something to also touch on is this Rumble that's on our screen at the moment. first time it's coming out this series has been banned. We'll have to come back to it as BJ having a Mosey into the mid lane. Cardi just has to flash.
Generous to say he has to flash. Very generous.
Cardi,
but let's go
Cardi
with that.
decides to flash.
Yeah, he decided to flash. Not sure if he had to, but that is a decent first attempt because now BJ can actually return gank and flash W on top of him, which buys him more time in the W duration, which means Cardi can't escape. Because Cardi actually played it really nice and calmly. If he didn't flash, that would have been perfect play. Just wait out the W and a W afterwards. For some reason, thought he was in danger, but no matter, BJ will have another opportunity to gank mid lane and maybe, get his mid laner going.
Okay. CBL just wanted to hang out with the other team for a bit.
It's just as normal Leona gaming, right? You hit a 10F play to go in. And
Yep.
It's just basically what the whole champion does. Like, we dive at level 2. It's like the ideal way of living for the side of Leona. But all jokes aside, decent trade for the side of Team Wales. And I really want to look out for CBL because he is, for the first time, sort of off comfort this game. He actually drew a Nautilus ban in this last draft rotation for the side of GAM. So he's definitely a player that GAM was kind of forced to be respected to some extent. And the Leona, a little bit harder to play than the Nautilus, I would almost say. So let's see what he can do. And he is counterpicked this game as well. So it's definitely not the ideal setup for them. So far, he's doing okay. And it is, together with Artemis playing against the Carl Zeri. So Slater has a lot of things this game going for him, but it's not early game pressure. Like, the Zeri has basically nothing of that one. She's basically not a champion yet.
I think the most interesting thing about the bot lane matchup here is that Slater remembers the skill ultimate. But we have a little bit of a top lane dive setup. Levi's coming in.
Sparta in trouble, trying to use everything he's got, and in comes BJ, turning it around. Levi will be the first to fall.
And that somehow was a solo kill for BJ on the table.
Somehow.
Sparta standing right next to it. It's kind of funny. Either way, another game, another fail dive by the side of GAM, and Levi donating one. I gotta say, overall, not really his day, right? I mean, even in the recent game, he ended up winning. Not really too fond of all the decisions he made. And BJ just now showing off why his Poppy used to be banned in the series over the course of the first 2 games. And Wales yet again to a good start. And overall, I think Wales is presenting themselves, despite how disappointed we were last game, quite nicely.
And I actually want to flip this point a little bit on its head because I agree it's not Levi's best day, but it's also an insane day from both junglers reading the enemy junglers movement because we've seen so many counter ganks and just being there in the nick of time to save the situations from both sides. Last game and the game before, Levi was there as well. Remember top lane when they were setting up the top lane dive and Levi was there to save the play. The same was true for BJ as well. And BJ, he does not want to miss the action. It's a 3v3 in bot lane.
It is. Slater has already burned the cleanse, so I think they can just kind of back off and just say, okay, whatever, we trade 1 for 1 on summoners. We don't want to mess around with Levi. They just back off.
Why do I set up my
Pacifistic VCS. Both teams just don't want to fight. They see each other and they're like, oh, hell no. And it's also kind of like the teams being white, right? When whoever engages first just loses this if you just play against Braum.
Sorry, did you just say classic VCS, both teams don't want to fight?
No. I didn't. I implied the opposite.
Glory taking some damage as Levi strolls mid. Just getting a bit of a shove in, some damage onto the tower for Carti. He's got nothing else to do at the moment. As once again in the bot lane, we are just brawling constantly. Slater burning the flash, but they take him down.
Zeri is such a fake champion. VCS needs to stop picking Zeri. Every time we see her in this playoff, she's just going down in lane, she dies, she doesn't do anything in team fights. Let's see if Slater can redeem himself and the champion later on in the game. But that was horrible, horrible positioning in the laning phase. Usually Braum is so good at diffusing Leona engages. But in this case, it's a nice bait actually from Artemis. And Slater is not far enough away from his Braum, so Palette can't really set up the shield effectively. And then, everyone just piles on top of him. Palette just looks sadly on to the side where his ADC is dead yet again. And I really don't like these Zeri picks so far in the playoffs.
And Artemis just destroyed Slater through the exhaust. So definitely something that's not too easy. Either way, nice bait from him, and then CBL following through the great Zenith plate. I was putting a bit of a spotlight onto him because he was getting counterpicked and outbanned this game. And CBL so far as the emergency substitute, I would always say, is absolutely performing, I gotta say. And it's, of course, just now gets to show that Zeri is not a champion yet. I addressed it earlier, and soon the important power spike will come for Zeri, of course. So level 6, will she be able to skill her ultimate? It will be super important.
Top lane is so miserable. Just putting that out there. God, Sparta is having such a bad time.
Yeah, that's why
But
Rumble is
it's
such a good champion in this meta. He just wins every matchup that's in the meta. He just destroys all the melee champs. He's even good against Gnar, especially early on in the game, because Gnar can't really outpace his damage or kite him effectively. And even the Renekton matchup is now in Rumble's favor most of the time. Oh, here we go again. This time they have a better setup for Palette. He also has his ultimate ready. But look at the constant pressure from the bot lane. Wales already got the first dragon, and I really like this. Bot lane was my key to game number 3, and I thought GAM had to pick a better bot lane matchup. They didn't, and they got punished for it.
GAM will secure the Rift Herald. Levi may have to burn his flash. Nope, just W's over the wall. He's fine.
That's a highway robbery, right? They just you can use the mid lane, top lane pressure. Just watch the Herald and walk out, and Levi just getting over the wall there with the Ferromancy crash down, of course. The chain not really stopping him there, and he's just way too tanky to get any follow-up onto himself. Waits, of course, on the other side of the map, got the first wake. I mean, considering the fact that the bot lane had so much pressure anyway, that's not really that much of a huge W for them. And I really wonder how influential this top lane gap really will be. I mean, Kiaya wins the lane anyway, we addressed this earlier, and he is up more than 20 CS because Rumble is just so disgustingly strong right now. But I mean, it's still like a Santa on the other side. I mean, he will be somewhat fine, I would say, because the champion just can do so much as long as he just gets his first item, and he could still be very impactful. And while the Cassandra is down like 20 CS overall, Team Wales is still up. So it just means the carries are definitely flourishing this game for Team Wales, and this could just mean more of a difference than whatever Kiaya can do.
Yeah, there's an inherent anti-synergy between Rumble and Zeri, especially when the Zeri is put behind, because she is not great when Rumble is greatest, right? Rumble is going to be the strongest compared to other champs around level 11, when he gets 1.5 items, maybe even 2 items, and can really dominate teamfights with overwhelming damage and zone control and all of that. But at that point, Slater is not going to be a huge issue, so they have a little bit of anti-synergy going on in their teamfights. I still think GAM should go and group for the next few dragons, but getting the first dragon against the Rumble team is always great, because you just buy 5 more minutes time. Even if the Rumble starts dominating teamfights, just don't meet him at dragons for 5 more minutes, and suddenly you have a better way of dealing with this monster of a champion.
I mean, on the one hand, yeah, they just power spikes, but different spikes. But the question really is does Rumble really fall off that much in the current meta? I think he's just so disgustingly damaged that he doesn't really fall off that hard. I mean, of course, a little bit, especially compared to someone like Cassandra. I think it could be fine anyway for the side of GAM, because as long as he just can wall off a corridor with his equalizer, you just make it so hard for Artemis and Glory to play these team fights. So if the Rumble really falls off hard is a question that remains to be answered. The hero charge coming out by the side of GAM, netting them 2 platings for now. But let's wait and see how these next Drake fights will play out, or if there even will be some, because GAM might, considering the fact that Slater is a chunk behind Artemis, just opt out of these fights.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just both teams sort of trying to maneuver their strong member, Artemis for Wales and Kiaya for GAM, into a position to actually get something done, as Glory again getting shoved in. This matchup is very difficult, but Artemis is able to hit the tower at the same time.
And Artemis quietly actually accelerating ahead. 2 solo platings for himself. That's more than a kill worth of gold. A bit risky this engage, but they back off in the end. I'm fascinated by how well Glory is doing in the CS department. Oh, there we go.
Hang on, Ultimate coming out. There's just the solar flare coming down for CBL. I don't think you should have thrown that Zenith Blade. They were out. Now Artemis exhausted, cleanses it up. This is really rough. They're going to go in. It's kill back onto Slater. Can BJ finish this one off? Magnet Storm is good. Glory comes in to finish it. What did we just watch?
I think both teams got a bit bored by their slow approach to the game, so we had to fight. And in this case, it's huge for GAM, because Slater gets 2 kills, and overall it's a 2 for 2, but still the kill allocation is so much better for the side of GAM. And they forced the teleport too. Look at Kiaya instantly getting 2 platings. The game was just turned on its head. This is a huge advantage now for GAM.
CBL, be on the owner syndrome. Yeah, that's the problem, right? CVL just now, he's very proud of his Solar Flare into Zenith Blade combo that he just has to be in this one. And Artemis was already out. He was already out, as you rightfully pointed out, Carvex. And they are kind of stalling time for the side of BJ, but they are not able to stall enough time before going down themselves. So it's not really worth. You were much happier here with a 0-for-0 than with a 2-for-2, especially with Slater getting those kills onto the Zeri. So at the end of the day, it is on paper theoretically an even trade, but I think GAM is much more happy with this one, as Slater just now can maybe bridge over this part of the game where he's just so weak, because now he just got a huge influx of gold. And I mean, you much would rather would have kills on the Zeri than on a Poppy or on a LeBlanc even. Of course, LeBlanc does quite some bit with gold, but especially the static LeBlanc, she isn't really this one-shot burst champion at the moment, and I just think they're just so much more with it. And GAM in general very happy with this trade-off, as they are also now 1,000 gold up on the side of Team Wales.
Yeah, and if we look past just the kill count, the resources that had to be invested for Wales to somewhat salvage the play actually cost them so much around the map, because they got a TP. Oh, they want Kiaya? Can they get Palette instead?
Yeah, they need to try and get something. So many resources to the top side. They get nothing. Kiaya burning them as well. Carty looking for a way in. Glory warding him off as does get a bit of a juke. Needs to try and use the Hex Gate, but can't use it for now. Finally gets in. BJ, it's just going to go down, and my word, Wales have collapsed.
Yeah, it's just Wales just kind of biting into
Hang
GAM.
on, they're going to keep going as
Well,
Carthy does get caught out. Levi surfing on in, lands one kill onto CBL, and here comes the big bad Kiaya. Glory juking up towards the tower. Palette will get the kill there. Slater with the ultimate takes him down, and Sparta can do nothing but watch.
What just happened?
Congratulations. You played yourself. Zeri's online now, game is over. Well, what can I really say? I mean, Wales just goes for this fight, doesn't even get anything between those two towers, and they don't really have damage to kill anyone there. And then just GAM says thank you. Of course, they sacrifice Carty on the way, because it was, I think, Glowy and Artemis getting a good combo onto him. Either way, it was still just GAM fighting a much better fight in general. Slater is lightning, and now he's suddenly 3 kills up, despite having such a rough early game. Here we see it again.
Don't show it again.
Yeah, don't show it again, honestly. I refuse to commentate this replay.
It's a massacre. Yeah, they just lost their minds. The positioning on the top... I mean, they were going for a kill on Braum behind turrets. Even if they get the kill, they all die anyway, right? But they don't even get the kill because Braum is an Alistair with an ultimate on like 5-second cooldown, so you can't kill him. And everyone just dies. Zeri gets so many kills. They get so much gold of the tower plates and all the other kills. There's the tower going down, extending the lead now to more than 3k for GAM. Wales really just completely lost the plot in this whole game in a matter of 2 minutes.
To be fair to them, they wanted to just kill the Rumble, but I mean, of course, with Braum around, he kind of forces you to focus him instead of the Rumble, so it was not that much boneheaded, but it was still pretty boneheaded overall. You said it right. I mean, they kind of lost the plot and kind of forgot what they are really strong at in this game, and this is kind of disappointing to see, as they had such a strong bot lane matchup. Glorious also having a decent game. I also like what BJ did overall in the series so far. So I think they just kind of failed to reward themselves, because overall, Wales is doing a much better job than we initially expected.
Yeah, and this is something you've sort of talked about your way. Team Wales just kind of gets dog-walked by the better macro teams. GAM just decides to do things, and Wales just goes, okay, we'll follow. And sometimes it works, right? Sometimes they go, okay, we follow, and then they win the team fight because they're good team fighters. But up against a team like GAM in this and the situations we've been seeing, their lead gets pulled on, and then because Wales are just not able to do anything.
Yeah, and after the start of this game, it's really sad to see them collapse like this. Hopefully they can come back. I mean, literally the 2 games we have seen so far today were comebacks, so it's not over till the Nexus goes down. Now GAM needs to show us that they can actually front run, that they can execute from ahead, because they haven't shown an ability to do so far. Flash for flash trade, and here's the counter engage.
They're going to try and go in, but look at the CC and the damage coming out of GAM. They will manage to pick up 1 kill on the backside with Sparta going all out, traded back, but not terrible, honestly.
And that was GAM kind of overforcing, and it was still just a 1-for-1. It was just Sparta this time and one with a good Cassandra combo to really get Carty going, but it's still himself kind of falling down. As GAM was going for this Rift Herald push, getting this mid lane outside turret, the most important turret considering the map control, of course. And it's just Artemis couldn't really participate in this fight. I mean, he was getting chunked out by Kati initially, just losing more than half of his HP bar and his flash just to the Tristana bomb. And Kati, yeah, flashing offensively over there, doesn't get the reset, so he's kind of screwed in this situation. But they still get the most out of it. And just because they are so far ahead right now, Team Wales cannot really punish them greatly there.
Yeah, getting one kill back is not the worst. Sparta kind of, for the first time ever in this game, was on our screen. I guess he got dived very early on, but since then he was just parked in the side lane and didn't really do much. But for now, the game is definitely firmly in GAM's control. They have one dragon to their name. There's an easy way to dragon soul here, but it's going to take some time. So let's see what Wales does with the time they have for themselves after getting the first dragon. The big problem is the disconnect that I spotted earlier in the team composition between Rumble and Zeri is completely irrelevant now because Zeri is so far ahead of the item curve she should be at this point. 2.5 items already going into defensive itemization because she has more than enough damage on her team. And here's an engage from Levi.
Yeah, it's a good solar flare on the other side, but they're just too far behind. Levi's just not even taking damage from Artemis. And here comes the flamethrower, burning them down. I mean, this one's in the books. We need to just head to game 4.
Yeah, we kind of do, and I kind of addressed it already in draft. It was just Hankai cooking up the whale meal in the draft itself. This competition from Team Wales in general just cannot fall behind because they just lack the damage, and now they just kind of do nothing. GAM not even playing these engages all too cleanly, and not wanting to diss them in any shape or form, by the way. But it's just them just doing the standard stuff and just diving Team Wales onto dying turrets, and Artemis is this time not really accepting the fate of the turret itself. So it will just be the dragon, the turret, and 2 kills more for the side of GAM, and Wales can just look at them and hope they don't crush them too soon.
And the more I look at this series and at our two teams today, the more I think Kai'Sa is completely overvalued here because one of her biggest strengths is how she's able to collapse on picks, right? She's one of the very few, maybe the only ADC that can follow up on a jungle, let's say, invade in 20 minutes, where you just go for the enemy jungle because you know that your Kai'Sa can follow up and get the assassination done. And it has not happened a single time. Those instances, they usually happen in Kai'Sa games where she gets random kills and is able to dominate the mid game. They haven't happened at all on either side. And I feel like both of these teams are overvaluing how strong Kai'Sa is for them specifically, not in the global matter, but just in this series, in this very front-to-back focused team fighting kind of style of play. I hope both teams will reevaluate their priority on Kai'Sa because she's just not really doing what she's supposed to do, and that's not because of the champion, it's because of the playstyle of both of these teams.
Yeah, and it just seems like at this point, the composition from Team Wales doesn't really have the tools to fight back. I still really think we don't need more Glory LeBlanc. I just don't think it's this high priority. It has not had a very big impact in any of these games. We need to see something else. We need to see an actual, either him picking the Tristana or a real counter into it. So at the moment, he's just getting a little bit outclassed. And Kiaya is a raid boss. Why did he go back to the W pad? I guess he was trying to get away from Slater. He's managing to dance away and did a LeBlanc.
He pressed W, but it was an L. That's all I'm going to say on this one. And just the first pick in general for the side of Team Wales. But they picked blue side every game, so they deliberately really want to have this one. And they just picked the LeBlanc and the Kai'Sa, with Tristana being right there. The Tristana just being a bit above those in the hierarchy, at least in the direct counter matchup kind of sense, I gotta say. And I really would have preferred this way of approach for the side of Team Wales. But I mean, assuming they lose this game, they get side selection once more and can just go for another shot on the blue side. Maybe pull it off like this, or just if you don't really get a banger counter pick, a banger first pickup for the side of the blue side, just pick red side. Just avoid a Kiaya counter pick and just be happy that maybe Sparta can last pick or something. This could also be an approach that would maybe work for the side of Team Wales. But of course, this game technically not over, but it's looking very, very grim for Team Wales. 5,000 gold, they are down. They should be ahead with this competition to really be able to somewhat contest GAM in this competition. And GAM is just like an unstoppable wall that circumvents them and just slowly approaches them. They just can't really stop it in any shape or form.
Yeah, and in draft next game, we're going to have to hone in on this, but I feel like one of the big advantages for GAM is how flexible Kiaya is in his picks. On the other side, Sparta is going for the same 3-4 champion every single game, and Kiaya just has those extra few champions that counter, that can set up different team compositions. Now the Rumble, he also still has a Jax somewhere sitting around. He has played really good Jax games in the playoffs so far, so that's a scary one. They had to ban Gwen this game, because they knew Kiaya could carry with Gwen as well. So he's just causing a lot of issues for the enemy team. And the way he just plays all the styles, tank, last game, amazing on game. Now this is a carry performance where he just wins the laning phase and has such a huge impact. They have to find an answer into this top lane mismatch.
They absolutely do. But the VCS has been looking for an answer to Kiaya for 4 years. And they haven't found one yet, but we do have an engage. They've potentially found a catch. They need to kill him. Oh, Slater is shut down. Sparta trying to get away, but there's the equalizer on top of the Rel ult from Levi. And I mean, if you were closer, that's a good play. But unfortunately, this game's not close.
I love and hate how they can just catch Slater, the arguably most important member on the side of any late game composition, the AD carry, and it still doesn't matter overall because Gab is just that much more damage load overall and can just fight anything they really choose, and Kiaya just waltzing in with the flamethrower, with the equalizer, and just doing the reverse equalizer on the score and potentially netting them this second win of the series. The Baron will of course be done. BJ is still down. There's no top set on the side of Team Wales up. It's just Glory and CBL, and they can't defend this at all.
And I can't fault Team Wales for this play, because that's exactly what I wanted to see for Kaiser teams to do, right? Get picks, get Kaiser to get on there to assassinate their target. That's exactly the Kaiser play we so often see in different leagues. There it is. Suddenly the Kaiser is on top of the enemy AD carry. And if you can walk away with this kill, everything is great, right? That's a shutdown. But unfortunately, here comes the raid boss, as Carrick's pointed out. Look at that damage. It's just insane. Artemis gets cooked alive, not even in flamethrower range, just from the rockets coming from out of the sky. Well, that is probably the last nail in the coffin for game number 3, and GAM looking the best they've looked today, I'd say, especially now with the setups and how they punish positionings for Team Wales.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a little bit of a foregone conclusion. We just didn't see GAM close this one out cleanly. There has been, some issues with that recently from them. Some questionable decisions. So, we want to get some hope that they can just close things out nice and easy. Don't make any mistakes. Don't make any over-aggressive plays. Just get this one in the books.
Yeah, and it's looking really, really rough for Sparta in top lane right now. I mean, we are looking like for 4 years for an answer into Kiaya. And here we see the next fight. Maybe it's the last one.
Yeah, they're going to give it a crack as the teleport is in. Big equalizer. Burns Ibel down. BJ on the run. Artemis going low. Cardi moving forward. Flash and a jump. Sparta does his best, but there is absolutely nothing he can do. And with the minions here, that will be game number 3 in the books. And GAM will go back to their rightful place in the lead.
GAM so close to yet another title, yet another number 1 position from Vietnam. They are the kings of this league, and they have been for such a long time. No one has been able to break their dominance, apart from Artemis for that one split, but ever since then they have won every single playoffs, and they're very close to doing it yet again. Number 1 seed, haven't lost the best of 5 all year, at least in the VCS. Actually, they didn't play a best of 5 in MSI. So yeah, they haven't lost the best of 5 all year, and it keeps going. They're 1 game away from the series.
Yeah, 1 game away from finishing it off in classic GAM fashion. And Wales need something new in this next draft. I mean, they can still change a lot of things, right? New side selection, you can still have another two-side approach that we already pointed out. And if we can point it out, then they probably can as well. And there's still the option to go wet side, at least try it once. Just maybe blow it all up and try a different thing. Because Wales overall in the day doesn't have a too shabby day. So this series is still not over, but GAM definitely looking good right now.
That they are, and it's 1 more to close it out for GAM. Wales need to get 2 on the trot if they want to add a fresh name to the trophy. We're going to have a quick little break, and then we'll be back with our final series of VCS for the year. See you soon.
This is my life story, my fingers to the bone. I'm running after glory. Oh yeah, I should have known. Should have known. Yeah, I should know by now.
And GAM return to their dominant behavior as they go up 2-1 on the back of an enormous Kiaya and frankly an enormous entire team. They outclass Wales in game number 3. And I'm going to go straight to you, Your Way. What went wrong for Wales?
Well, it all started with that passage of play where they just lost their mind, mostly in the top side, actually, where they chased for kills. They could have just stayed in top lane, pushed the wave, and pushed for the tower, but they got punished so quickly by GAM. They just collapsed on them. It was a 4-for-1 trade, I believe, in terms of kills. GAM also got better positioning on the towers. I believe they instantly pushed down the top lane tower afterwards. And that play set up the whole rest of the game in GAM's favor. So, yeah, it was really that passage of play around 14-15 minutes in the game where, Wales overpushed in the top side and GAM punished them severely. Then afterwards, GAM actually played a very solid game and just ran to victory with no hiccups whatsoever. Slater got picked, but even that got punished again. So GAM looked much cleaner, and Wales kind of couldn't do anything after that fumbled play in the top side.
So, Quincy, I'll go over to you. GAM, to close this one out, what do we want to see from them in game 4?
I mean, they don't really need to change anything right now. I mean, why would you change your running system so far? I mean, as long as they actually get red side again, I think they're probably happy because Kiaya is just such a menacing presence that he just warps around this whole draft, right? On blue side, first rotation, Team Waste just has to ban the Jax. They picked Renekton in 2 games because they are afraid of Kiaya's Renekton. They needed to ban Gwen when they wanted to pick a Sante. And Kiaya could also just one with the Rumble and just force so much pressure on towards Sparta anyway. When Sparta actually had potentially a counter pick up against the Rumble, but there was nothing good because Rumble's just so strong right now, and Sparta apparently can't play it. So this alone just makes it so hard for the side of Team Wales to just draft on the blue side, and they really, if they pick blue side, they really need to make this first pick in the first rotation really worthwhile. And so far, they actually just couldn't do it. Even in game 1, where they were the victorious team, they kind of won it in a somewhat lucky comebackish way. So I think in the draft department, they really weren't convincing there. They kind of won the second draft, in my opinion, but that was actually a game that GAM kind of stole under the nose. So for game 4, I would want them to have like an absolute banging first pick if they pick blue side, or just choose red side here. So they really don't have to have this constant paranoia of running into Kiaya's counter picks.
And one big question is, do they stick to their guns? Do they stick to their preparation? Do they stick to LeBlanc? Because 3 games in, 3 games of LeBlanc, I think he looked pretty good in game 2, where he wasn't counted. He didn't look great into either of the Tristana games, got dominated in lane, and didn't really contribute much in the end. I think in game 1 he actually had some really nice team fights, but his laning phase was pretty bad. So I don't hate the LeBlanc pick. I wouldn't hate it in game 4 either. But maybe they should try a little bit something different. Just spice it up a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see that. I really just don't want to see this LeBlanc again. We see it did 9k damage last game. It has just not been worth the priority they put it on. We need to see Glory getting on something else. Even his Azir. Glory's Azir is fine. Play it. Do some damage.
I have nothing to add on this point. Yeah, either way, just what I really want to see from the side of Team Wales, like you really need a clear answer against Kiaya. I mean, we were also addressing it, right? I mean, for 4 years, the VCS as a whole is trying to find an answer against Kiaya, and they just kind of don't do that because Kiaya is just that good. And I mean, Kiaya this series alone, right? I mean, he picked the Rumble, he picked the Ornn, he picked the Gesandte. He basically almost always won the lane, and it's just the Aatrox ban from Spada that's really the one saving grass that Spada has this series so far, that he forces this one single ban. But other than that, Kiaya is just so fine against them. And yeah, for the side of Team Wales this game, I mean, I said it earlier before, right? Don't pick the blue side again, and if you do, you just pick something else. So, like, this LeBlanc stuff is definitely not working out for them too greatly. What I would maybe also address is what Karex just said with the Azir potential pickup. They could also just want something like the Jace into the Tristana, which is something that they, I think, have not much experience with. But I mean, actually, Glory played a fair bit of Jace, and also his Ari is something that is like his most prominent pick. He could just want this one. Just try something different. Don't try the same stuff over and over again and expect it to work. That would be not the definition of insanity, but something along those lines, right?
Yeah, I would love a return to Ari Vi, because even though the Vi looked a little bit off in game number 2 and kind of cost them the game at the end with the team fights, the early game was great for BeanJ. BeanJ in general today has had a pretty decent read on the map, I feel like. A really nice counter gank, I should say, last game on the top lane. And the Vi Ari just looked insane against Team Secret, so go back to the strategy that worked for you. They won 3 against Saigon Buffalo as well. So I want to see a little bit of a return to that. I think Glory should try to dominate his lane against Carti. It's not good enough for him to just stay even or even fall behind in terms of lane positioning or pressure. I think he has to be the strong point of his team, because especially because Sparta against Kiaya is such an insanely lopsided mismatch in favor of GAM. So yeah, I feel like Glory needs to pull a little bit more of his weight. I do not want to see an Azir. I hate VCS Azir with a passion. I think it's horrible. No one understands how to teamfight with Azir in this league, so please no Azir. But I would like to see some long-range mages, maybe even a Jace. I think Jace against Tristana is a bit tricky, but with some of the things that Carti has done so far on the Tristana, maybe you can actually catch him out, because even in the last game, he had 1 or 2 jumps where I was holding my breath. So potential is there for Glory to change something.
Okay, Corki then.
Oh, please no.
I mean, better than
Then
Azir.
rather
At least
Azir, I
you
would
can't
say.
really try to shuffle on Corki.
I've got to say, so
are you
far
trying
Wales
to
has
make
been
it a
the
talking point
Sensei
against
champions
Azir
every
that he has more playmaking potential? Come on, man. I mean, of course, you have the experience from
Absolutely.
watching countless VCS games. I mean, I think like Azir is conceptually broken as a champion, right? He has burst, he has the DPS as an AP, and he also has the engage potential. Like, if you can play Azir, he should be absolutely insane pretty much in any situation. And I mean, to those who watched EMEA Masters yesterday can maybe agree with me on that if they have seen Saken play it. But I mean, if Glory just can't do that, then maybe I agree with you. Other than that, I think Azir in theory should be strong.
I've seen too many.
Or-
I've seen too many Azirs in the VCS. It's please no.
I've got a solution. I have a solution to this Tristana problem that doesn't involve an Azir. We don't have to watch Your Way Mold. We could ban it. We could use a ban on it. That is an option. Maybe,
Which ban do we drop, though?
Rakan stays up. I mean, like, Rakan... I mean, like, yeah, okay, Paulette's very good at the champion, but it's just a Rakan.
I actually agree,
I don't
because
think Rakan
TBL
screws
picks a
you as hard
Rakan
as
counter
Burst.
anyway. Rakan is traditionally not good into hook champs, and CBL plays a hook champ or Leona anyway, and yeah, Leona's also good into Rakan. So if Rakan stays up, then so be it, right? Maybe just ban the Tristana and just reinvent your whole draft approach. I also think you could just pick it yourself and just decide later on if it's mid lane or bot lane. That also works. But yeah, you can drop the Rakan ban. You can, however, not drop the Jax ban. I think Kiaya is just way too good.
I do agree with that. Hopefully we are headed towards draft soon. We are sort of... According to our producer. Oh, wait, did we miss time around dinner break? Did we get dinner braked?
I hope
think
not.
dinner break is usually after game 2, no?
No, it's always match point. It's always match point.
VCS.
Ah, no. We got dinner braked. We got dinner braked. Oh, no. Oh, we're going to have... Our producer's saying that we have to also go to dinner break, so we'll see you in a couple minutes with a draft.
Welcome to the world, no heroes and villains. Welcome to the war, we've only begun. So pick up your weapon and face it. There's blood on the ground, go and take it. You get one shot to make it out alive. So higher and higher you chase it. It's deep in your bones, go and take it. This is your moment. Now is your time, so prove yourself and rise, rise. Make them remember you. Push through heaven. Rise, rise. They will remember you. Welcome to the climb up. Reach for the summit. Visions brave, the one falls steadily the end. So higher and higher you chase it. It's deep in your blood, go and take it. This is your moment. Take to the skies, go. Prove yourself and rise, rise. Make them remember you. Push through heaven. They will remember you. It is you fight among the dead beneath the dirt. Or do you know yet? Or do you want it? And when the giants call to ask you what you're worth, do you know if we don't die? Prove yourself and rise, rise. Make them remember you. Push through heaven. Rise, rise. They will remember you. Prove yourself and rise, rise. Pick up your weapon and face it. Rise. Deep in your blood, go and take it. You can chase it. Rise, rise.
You know who it is, come and run again. We want a dose of this, right now it's KD8. I'm a goddess with a blaze, 소리처럼 내 이름 잊지 못하게 loud, 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 loud. I could take you to the top, 절대 멈추지 못해. 내가 끝내주는 bad gal, gal, gal. And when I start to talk like that, oh you know how to react. I'm a picture perfect face with the wild in my veins. You can hear it in my growl, 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 growl. So keep your eyes on me now. 무엇을 보든 좋아할 거야. 날 수 없는 level. 나와 되길 원한 늘 확신해. We got it all in our hands now. So can you handle what we're all about? We're so tough. Let's get it, show you out. Can you feel the rush now? Ain't nobody bringing us down, 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 down. They could try, but we gonna wear the crown. You could go another round, 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 round. Wish you luck, but you're not bringing us down. We go hard, till we get it, we go hard. We so in it, we pop stars. Only winning, winning now. Ain't nobody bringing us down, 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 down. You ready for this?
Let's go.
See, 언제든지 내 모습 매직 단 한 번에 내가 잡아 절대 기죽지 않지. 펴펴 네가 뭘 알아? 견딜 수 없어 원해도 원하는 게 얼굴에 보여. I'm troubling you running it, I'm so cold. When I move that way, you gon' be so blown. I'm the realest in
Dinner has been eaten, bands have been locked, and we are heading into game number 4. And GAM is on blue side.
They are on blue side, and LeBlanc is banned. Not by GAM, but by Wales. Wales
I think
first
that-
on LeBlanc is out of the world. Holy moly.
Glory's been scrimming for Asian Games too much. It's been a 12.
Oh no. Either way, Kaiser's open, and GAM is not overweighting it as much as Wales has been doing so far in the series. So, I mean, that's actually not a fair point, because also GAM was picking it quite early in the first game. Either way, Maokai got through now, a pick that Levi has played a fair bit. Like, actually is his second most played champion in the playoffs so far. And Maokai is the kind of champion that kind of worries me, because there is no clear like winning answer against Maokai at the moment. Like, usually you just pick a silence for your mid laner later on in the draft, and Glowy might actually do that. But for jungle itself, like, nobody really hard beats Maokai. Actually, Wukong himself would maybe do that, but he's not really meta anymore, and Binjay is not Levi. So it's actually a tough task for Wales to really step up above this, and they just try their channels with well themselves. It could be jungle, could be support, we don't know yet.
Tristana is banned as well. We didn't touch on that, so that is not an option for the mid lane. And instantly Jace is locked in, because I think most people rate Tristana over Jace, especially in the one-on-one matchup. But when she's gone, suddenly the Jace rises in priority, and now with the AP jungler first pick, the Jace makes a lot of sense in the mid lane. Good damage split, especially also with Zeri being like 25% magic damage anyway. So I really like this opening of the draft for GAM. I think Wales is once again in a position where they have to adapt. We see Kaiser Rel consistently 1-2 on red side. And so far, I feel like it hasn't really done what it's promised to do as the highest priority rotation today. But there's also a lot of potential for the top lane now. We talked about the top lane misery that Wales find themselves in. They once again went with the most consistent top lane that they can find, which is of course the Renekton, and they're banning away some of the counters. Princy, what do you think? What's coming in to counter the Renekton on the side of GAM?
I think they just go with Cassandra Braum in the rotation. If they wouldn't have banned the Jax, it probably would have been Jax Braum, because Jax right now is so disgusting. Actually, despite, aside from the fact that PI is insane on Jax, like, Jax suddenly doesn't lose the early game against Renekton anymore. And yeah, that's why you have to bet it on the side of Wales right now. And there also would have been other options, maybe even like the Malphite instead of Kiaya. He could still go for this one actually, but I expect him to go for Cassandra again. That's such a safe option. He showed on this day that he can play the matchup out, and now for the side of Wales. What I want to see will just be hook support for CBL, and now I think Braum plus Cassandra, Braum plus Malphite, something like this will be the answer for GAM. I expect it to be Cassandra.
Is there a potential for Kaiser to be flex pick here? Usually we only see it as an answer into LeBlanc, but they deliberately haven't picked their mid laner yet. So this could be a last pick ADC and a pivot into the mid lane position for Kaiser on the side of Wales. Not sure if I like it, but it is a possibility. Now we finally get to decide, is it gonna be Cassandra Braum, like Prophet predicted? Could also be Ornn Braum, I feel. That's another good potential here. We have already seen Kiaya excel on the Ornn into Renekton matchup. So I feel like the Ornn is also on the cards here.
Could be. Maybe there's one Prophet in all of us right now, and it could be the Ornn pickup as well. And then they have done this Ornn Cassandra hovers back and forth all the time, and there it is again. I should just be more
Princy's
confident.
just too good.
Either way, I think you could go Kaiser mid here, but I think you shouldn't. I think you should go Ari, or maybe even Syndra, but it's just a hover. I shouldn't debate with this. I just say it now. It will. I wanted to say it will be the Ari, but I'm of course not that much of a prophet after all.
So Syndra coming in on match point, on season point for the side of GAM. So Wales cooked up something special again. Last pick Syndra. They tried, by and large, the last picks have failed so far in this series. We saw an issue with the last pick Lilia after getting super far ahead in the early game. Didn't do too well later on. So let's see if this last pick can finally change the tides of the series and bring us to game number 5. But it is an uphill battle for Wales from this position.
I like trusting Glory. I've got to say, this is a team where Glory's been shining, or at least trying to shine. I don't think he's had a great series today, but I think overall in the season, he's been a star player. He's meant to be a star player of this team. Give him an R5 and say, hey, man, prove it. You know, hey, we've seen Cardi. He falls over sometimes. Just make him fall over a bunch, right? That's how that works.
I'm just gonna say I don't think Chloe has that much of a bad day today, but I think Syndra just isn't really it. She doesn't really win lanes anymore. It's post rework Syndra. I think potentially this is GAM with 3 winning lanes right here. They also found the exploit on the side of Team Wales that CBL is only playing the Soak champion. They just go for the Braum on their outside, and Kiaya, as I said before, was winning lane anyway, no matter what they really pick. So this is a really rough game for the side of Wales. They really need a small miracle to really turn this around in the mid game. Other than that, I just have, as I said before the series started, GAM 3-1, and they will win this game.
Also, you just brought up the Braum, and they deliberately picked Syndra into Braum, which is not a great setup for the late game team fights, especially nowadays that Syndra is actually more of a late game champion. She scales really well into the late game with the new, those splinters or whatever it's called, the passive that makes all her abilities much stronger. A pretty big range, good control in team fights, but against Braum, she really struggles because Braum can essentially just tank the whole ultimate with a normal ability. He doesn't even have to invest his own ultimate to absorb the enemy mid laner's ultimate. So I'm not entirely sure how Glory wants to play around that. Maybe waiting for someone to overextend, someone like the Kassanti. Syndra can punish Kassanti quite well. If he goes in, removes 85% of his MR and 50% of his HP, suddenly Syndra can burst him down easily. So maybe that's the target to go for, but the Braum is going to pose a big challenge.
Yeah,
I want to point out CBL is a freak, changing skins from game to game on the same champion. Absolute freak.
If he loses on the skin, he might as well change it, right? It's a bit like those World Championship winners where we had like Unalive Kingen, for example, not going for DRX Atox anymore because he wasn't really feeling himself, and then when he regained confidence, he just kind of went back to it. Same things happened similarly to Marta with his something white fresh skin. It's something that was an observation from back in the day, as we see Kati on the Jace against Glory. And yeah, I said Syndra is a weak lane champion. I stick to my guns on this one, but if you just hit every Dark Sphere, you still have decent trade potential.
You do?
Let's look at some of the matchups we have here. Levi with an early invade on the Maokai. Not really the champion you expect to invade, but of course it's a split map, so it's not really an invade. It's just trading farm on both sides of the map. So last game we actually saw the Zeri fall down yet again in laning phase. You can't remember because she instantly got 2 or 3 kills funneled back into her, but it was actually a bad start for the Zeri. Let's see if she can do a bit better in the laning phase in the straight up 2v2 this time around. Actually the exact same lanes as last time. BJ is prepping his W. This is risky.
This could just decide the entire game if this goes
Here we
wrong.
go.
Oh,
no,
CBL's already taking a tower shot. They go in. Slater immediately cleanses. The Braum is too good, and the game's over. Good job, guys.
All right, pack it up. 3-1 GAM. Here we go. I didn't understand how they really approached it in the first place, right? I mean, I think the dive can work out if you play it fine mechanically, but they just kind of don't, right? CBL has played 4 games this year, and that kind of shows. I mean, it's harsh to say, but I think maybe with B and being like mechanically proficient enough for it, it would just work out. But CBL taking the third shot way too early, he has to move to Uganda to really step out of it, and then they just dive without Nautilus anyway, and then just lose it all because BJ then has to pick up the aggro, and they just don't deal damage for the situation at CBL.
I mean, honestly, I don't think they even have the damage. He's full HP, he has cleanse. Like, there's a Braum shield blocking all of Artemis's damage. How do they ever have the damage to kill Slater? I don't think they actually do. Even if the dive is better, like, the Braum shield just completely eliminates...
Well, if at first you don't succeed, try again, as... There we go. Second time's the charm.
I actually love that. The first execution was horrible, the dive was bad, but that's your game plan. Your game plan is accelerate Artemis, your main carry, and you can't just back off from the game plan just because the first iteration went wrong. If you don't go for bot lane again, you're just gonna bleed out slowly, so all or nothing, it's on game point for GAM. Just go for it again, beautifully done.
Yeah, it just works better when the turret isn't there, is what we can really deduce from this one.
We have a bit of a scrap in the mid lane as Glory's getting collapsed on, but a good flash in with a stun as well. Carty kind of low, but BJ doesn't really have the follow-up. Needs to be careful as he's going low. Under the tower goes to the Maokai. BJ, incredibly low but alive. Oh my word.
I
BJ.
think we need a big tutorial session for all of our VCS players. All 10 players that are going to go to Worlds just need to sit in the tutorial and learn about towers again, because apparently we all forgot that towers deal damage. It's quite a bit of damage. This is the good punish. Too aggressive from Slater and Palat. You kind of have to scold them for this a bit, because there was no need to go for this aggressive chase. You just won the game. If you just stay safe and let your Zeri scale with a free first blood, you're fine. So a little bit overzealous. Probably we're feeling quite nice after that first gift of a kill. So trading it back wasn't the greatest play from Slater and Palat, but they're still fine. There's still a first blood on Slater, and he's still looking better than last game.
Absolutely. It's just one kill to Artemis, right? And Artemis is like this one member on Wales that you really don't need to feed if you are GAM. I mean, of course, in general, over the course of the split, it wasn't that Artemis favored, but here's the next fight.
BJ coming down. They need to try and find something here before Levi can enter the play. And Exhaust is there. Palat will go down with the last auto attack. Now they just need to fight their way out from Levi. BJ, incredibly low, needs to find some tankiness if he can. Will just die to get some CC down. And now Artemis is in trouble. Doesn't really have anything. Wants to kill Levi before he goes down, but can't. And Slater gets a double kill.
And a very good aggro situation by the side of GAM that they really just kite out Artemis so well, just use the brushes, and also Levi just be engaging onto him to really get him going. But as somebody always saying, but the shutdown onto CBL, not great for GAM, of course, but also not the end of the world. They're still very happy to get these two kills, and here we see it again in the replay. Landing from the side of CBL, a lot of plasma stacks on towards him, and BJ is around, but who's also around, that's Levi, at the right place at the right time. And yes, they get Palat there, with Artemis just fishing in this last out attack. But here we see again, Levi is in there with a great Bramble Smash, and Artemis is just able to hit Levi, who takes half an hour to get down.
Hang on, we have another fight as Artemis has just killed Carty.
Okay, we're back to game one. It's complete chaos, and no one understands what's going on. There was some interesting positioning from Carty. I'm not entirely sure how he ended up there. He's a mid laner. Somehow he was closer to bot lane than mid lane. Maybe we get to the bottom of that in the next replay, and then miss the next play. It's a constant replay
This
chain,
is a classic
as we know.
VCS.
Yep. That's exactly what we like to see. But yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a mystery how he ended up in the bot side river position. A kill to Artemis yet again. So both ADCs actually playing with like double the gold they should have at this point of the game. Carty just... Oh, he wanted the... Okay, trying to play with his advantage in mid lane. Then, just didn't account for the enemy team actually being there. That is... that is such a funny death. It's...
This is a huge death though. Like, it gave them the Drake and another kill to Artemis. Like, this is so unnecessary. Like, just for some honey food or what? I mean, that's so expensive, I gotta say. And also, on the other side of the map, something that we haven't talked about this game in particular, Sparta is doing
bad
okay, but here's getting collapsed on.
Oh, but surfs it back out well. BJ does arrive.
Wait,
just in
Kiaya,
time.
what?
All out goes Kiaya, trying to defuse the play, trying to get something done as Levi chunked out. I think we can just back off, Wales. We don't need to do anything more. But they do have Glory coming in. Then Sparta has a lot of fury, can get some healing. He slices, he dices, he dies. Kiaya should be answered back onto. So 1 for 1 as we go over
I actually
Glory.
think Team Waste didn't play clean, but they are probably happy with giving a kill to Syndra, because Syndra just had this stacking mechanic where she just really needs to get these combos, get these takedowns that are going for herself to really get those splinter stacks, and she will perfect greatly for that as a late game champion. While Cassandra with the kill, of course, I mean, yet again, nicely played by Kiaya, and he isn't winning this lane against Renekton, but he's going even, so he is fine at that anyway. But Glory is super happy with this kill, also winning the lane against the Jace. Carty having a very quiet game so far.
Yeah, Carty a little unfortunate there, of course, with the roam bot side, and now Glory is free to use his advantage that he accrued by his laning opponent just not being there to move into the top side. But Kiaya, once again, the hero for GAM, actually makes that 1 for 1 with a very clutch execution at the back end of the fight. And of course, Cassante, it's really hard to judge his damage, I feel like, especially when you're not, I mean, top laner should be, but when you don't play against him that often, it's really hard to know when does he do a lot of damage. Is he in his ultimate form and still deals more damage or not? So really nicely done from Kiaya to at least get one kill back, but still, Wales actually with a super promising start here to game number 4.
And I actually want to rebuttal a little bit on this one. This was a rare Kiaya L in my opinion, because GAM was also out. They don't need to go for this 1-for-1, and they kind of ended up doing it. And Kiaya was just flexing his mechanics a little bit. I think if you don't give Glowy that kill and just walk out, it would have been better for GAM overall, as Kati is engaged on yet again.
Yeah, they're going to try and go under the tower. The stun lands, but they think better of it and don't overextend.
They disengaged from a tower, guys. They disengaged from a tower. They learned. They didn't all die to the tower. Woo!
It's progress. It's progress. Oh, my word. That's what we're celebrating these days. We
Yeah, it
used to
wasn't a
build
clean dive
bridges.
situation anyway. No minions really up in the turret to really tank anything, and probably just Glowy being happy to get like one more combo of one more splinter stacks, just a little thing that you really need to celebrate over there. But he overall just has such a great laning phase. Like Jace is supposed to dominate this lane against the Syndra, and he just really isn't. I mean, Jace also in itself, like he used to be like this champion that's called out for falling off late game. He is not that champion anymore. He's super strong on 2 or 3 items right now with the Eclipse Serilda's more mana item build. But so far, this Jace not really having any impact of the early game in the positive sense is really worrying for GAM. And this is looking like game 5 right now.
Oh, and he's been
That's
caught
good catch.
out, but they're not going to follow up because there's a few too many members of GAM close by. They don't want that fight, but Levi does. CBL trying to disengage. Glory flashing over the wall, but I don't think he has enough in the tank. Slater arriving as well, moving in onto Artemis, and out of nowhere, it's a huge brawl. Artemis nearly gets it back.
That flash,
Glacial
though.
Fisher does absolutely nothing. CBL kills Kati on the other side, as Slater does finally clean up Artemis. CBL will go down as well. Where the hell did that fight come from?
What is going on? Everyone is going crazy. That flash, there was a triple flash engage for GAM. They were so desperate to get the kill, and I mean, I guess it succeeded. Slater actually playing more like Kaiser on the Zeri than he was on the Kaiser games, following up instantly, trying to assassinate Artemis. Such a close margin on all of these fights, but in the end, GAM win on all sides of this engagement.
Yeah, they were really confident in this play, just going in with the triple flash, Nature's Grasp engage. And against the Maokai, you can't really fight this one. Glowy had a good early game, but he's not really strong enough to really one rotation someone, so he just, blows his ult out desperately. Artemis here trying to survive, can't really do that against Braum plus Zeri combination. And here, something that I really want to criticize Artemis for. This W, this Void Seeker shouldn't be casted. He should just run the hell out of there. He just tried to have the individual outplay on towards the Zeri, and this actually ended up killing him there. I mean, he might just go to anywhere, but you can at least try to run out. He should really go for this outplay, and this cost them greatly so far. They are just now, I mean, earlier I was speaking of maybe game 5 being realistic right now, and now GAM with a small gold lead. Wales might just go for the Constellation Drake on this one, but it is just a chem tech play, not really that much in the stat department. Just one nice tech towards the potential soul.
This is something we have to praise Wales for. Their dragon control so far in the series has been the better of the two teams. Definitely the team with more focus on the dragons and also better execution. As we have
Going
another
under
dive.
the tower again, as Kati is the target. We don't rip the Syndra ult though, as Levi reinforces. Levi wants to keep this going, just move straight in onto BJ. CBL with a lovely hook to get him out of there, unless that sapling finds him. No, it won't. He's fine. And they're just constantly scrapping. I feel like if you had Syndra ulted, Kati probably dies.
Yeah, I'm really surprised they didn't Syndra ult. Like, it was up. I was looking at the cooldown. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, apparently the Syndra ult is not up, but it looked like it was up. Maybe it's an issue for the spectator client. No,
No,
happens
it was
sometimes.
definitely
But
up.
very confusing there.
He was maybe not really fancying his chances there and thought the threshold wouldn't be met because he doesn't have the execute on the ultimate anymore, and or not yet, I would say. But I also think like 400 HP, yet quite some Syndra spears lying around. I think this should have been the kill for the set of Glowy. And I think even if you don't get the kill, you at least try. Just get like more splinter stacks, so it will be that strong of an ultimate later on. So I think that was a bit of a blunder by the set of Glowy. Or him just knowing his damage limits better than we do could also be the case. He just now finished this mythic item with the Luden's Tempest into the Sorcerer's Shoes. He will, in the next skirmish, for sure be confident enough to go for the ultimate. So let's wait and see if he does a play over there. But just another game. Hopefully slowing down a little bit. Wales with 2 Drakes, but yeah, down around 2k gold. It's a very close game.
And Levi has been playing more aggressively on this tank champion. I mean, he's not really building a tank, but conceptually tank champion than on any of the other champions. He's playing almost as aggressively as the Lee Sin game in the mid game, and just going for fights constantly, trying to use his repositioning, trying to use this lockdown to get as many kills as possible. It's going really well for him so far. 104 on this accelerating Maokai, and he's gonna deal quite a bit of damage, especially around objectives with the pesky E in all the bushes and one item already completed. This is a Maokai that is gonna look really great on the damage charts after this game.
It is. As Wales are looking towards this Rift Herald, but they have to be so careful as the pincers are coming in from GAM. The only one not really here is Kiaya, but he's going to channel the TP. GAM want to commit to this. Herald bursts down. They do secure it, but the Maokai ult is good. CBL in the middle of the enemy team. He's just basically a sacrifice. BJ as well on the altar. And Wales are starting to collapse. Can Artemis get anything done? No. Kiaya will shut that hope down. Glory has to just run. And it's 4 for a Rift Herald.
That was like maybe the most expensive Rift Herald of all time, I just gotta say, for the side of Team Wales. They wanted to get the Rift Herald and then out. They saw the TP coming from GAM and weren't just happy with the teleport itself, which they should maybe have been. We see Glory just getting at least one snipe down with the Syndra to get a huge shot on Slater, which is not bad, but overall the team fight's still a disaster for the side of Team Wales. We will probably see a replay of that one again as Glory. Maybe he still has ultimate, right? He could maybe just chase down Levi here.
I mean, I think Levi can turn and kill him. If his CDs come back up,
No.
not quite.
No. And now it's Syndra Gaming, maybe. I mean, this is just a strong sequence for Glory. Like 2 big shutdown kills for him. Out of the blue, solo kills for him. And this alone maybe just makes the game not be written off for Team Wales.
Yeah, this is gonna be a Syndra show if Glory is to turn around this game and get us to game 5, because everyone else is super far behind, and Wales, with that horrible team fight setup, is now staring down at GAM with a 4k gold lead, all of their champions in a very good state, trying to get over the line. The only one that has something to say about that is Glory. Let's keep our eyes on this fight. Artemis, this is what Kaiser does not like to do, being in the middle of everything. She wants to be on the outskirts, but she just can't get past Kiaya. Look at Kiaya just focusing Artemis down, and there's nothing he can do. He's just getting annihilated on the other side, and the only saving grace is Glory here. He gets the kill on Slater. What did Slater do? I think Slater just overstepped. He just thought his Braum would save him, because he probably thought the only way he dies is the Syndra ultimate, but it's actually just a WQ combo. Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, it'll
a lot
do
of
it.
damage.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Cassante is definitely a champion. Kiaya able to just make Artemis non-exist in that fight. I'm sure chat can tell us a few little paragraphs about this champion. I've heard he's very popular with Twitch chat. But I mean, the overstay and the sort of turnaround there by Glory, it could turn into the Syndra show, but I feel like eventually you just start Maokaiing the Syndra.
Yeah, let's wait and see. Like, depending on the Cassandra copy passes as well, right? It's just depending on whether Glory is a showmaker or not.
Bit of damage going in. GAM with control of the pit at the moment, but they have to be careful.
It's almost down. So now Wales is not fighting for anything anymore. They need to evacuate GAM on the offensive.
There's the Maokai ult going across. Only gonna lock one up under tower. CBL should be fine. So Wales do get out of there. This is 4k gold, but it feels closer, Quincy.
Yeah, it actually does, and it's just based on what Glory could just do in this last few situations, right? I mean, I also was very surprised, just like Slater was, that he just dies to this QW combination from the Syndra, and I also expected him, he would still probably just need ultimate to kill him, right? And he didn't. I mean, Syndra is of course not an early game champion anymore, but yeah, it's just the Loons plus penetration boots combination alone was enough to kill the Zeri there, and that just might have started to snowball the other way around. And as long as Glory can do things, Wales is still in the game, and he's probably more of a focus than Artemis will be in these next few fights, especially with Artemis having his summoner spells available. He probably can just kite around most situations anyway, due to his own mechanical proficiency. But if these fights just go around like this last one, where Artemis just got Cassandra championed a little bit, it was just Team Wales, dropping their frontliners as sacrificial lambs, but they couldn't really sacrifice themselves for any positive play, as Artemis could just get Cassanted basically. And if this just happens again, GAM can just roll away with the game, and Glory could then just stand there and watch. And Glory, so far, I just gotta say, makes good arguments to just be the Asian Games representative for the side of Vietnam. As that was also the question.
Yeah, we're
That
gonna
is true.
see which of the two gets the billing in the end. But yeah, he's making he's having a good account or is accounting well for himself. We finally arrived there. But he kind of needs to show us that he can carry from this position too. It's not an easy setup. The Braum is still a huge issue. But maybe he can do some magic. We know some of the legendary Syndra players, like Knight comes to mind, especially on his legendary carry performances back in the finals against JDG a few years back. Can Glory find some sort of setup like Knight did back then? He's on 2 items, he has a lot of penetration, and this is gonna go a long way, especially against some of the squishier targets. He's almost a true damage if he hits someone like the Zeri, or maybe even the Jace, even through his MR boots. So there's a lot of damage potential behind that Syndra.
There he is.
Ooh, a bit of a catch onto Kiaya going low. There's the Syndra roll already committed. They go in on top of it with the Rel, but oh no, they're turning it around and they don't have anything left for Slater. Sparta just gets taken down, and this was just poor target selection from Wales, I feel. Kiaya scoops CBL back in. Glory, last man alive, last man dead.
And it's a 5-0 for the side of team. For the side of GAM, and Glory, just as I kind of anticipated it and feared it, kind of just could sit there and watch as his team crumbles before him, literally, with the front line not really having the backline access. I mean, they had the access, but they didn't really have the damage to really kill anyone there. The kill pressure was so low on that side, and with Ada being exhausted, he couldn't really do anything. It could just get kited out by the side of GAM, and they just now get a 5-0 in the mid game and a very early Baron. And especially those early Barons are the scary stuff, because they just give you almost the same stats, give you this insane minion siege buff, and it's just so much standing gold still left to take for them. So this really might just be the backbreaker for the side of Team Wales.
Yeah, and Kiaya gets engaged on here, and they almost chunk him down, but remember, they just put so much damage into the tanky version of K'Sante, and now he gets all that lifesteal. He gets to just use a few of his abilities on BeanJ to heal up to a few more HP, and in the meantime, the other side of the fight is completely over already, so they don't even manage to kill Kiaya, their main focus. They'd fall 5-0. The target selection and the execution on that teamfight just horrendous from Wales, and it's probably going to cost them the series, because now this lead looks insurmountable.
It does. GAM is just so far ahead, nearly 10k gold at 22 minutes. A 7-3 Zeri. I mean, it's divine intervention is the only way back in this to Wales.
Yeah, it just basically needs GAM like to really turn off their monitors or something. I mean, at least like objective bounties are still in the game right now, and that's something that plays into the cards of Team Wales a little bit, as of course GAM continues their Baron Siege, or start of their Baron Siege on the mid lane tier 2 turret. At least like Wales got 1 objective bounty, got the top lane out of turret, if I saw that correctly. Yes, I did. But it's still almost 10,000 gold between those teams, as you said. And yeah, they got the cheap Drake, but they get the Chemtech Drake, and now Infernals are on the map right now. As GAM is looking strong, they can just whack in one Infernal Drake after the other. If this game goes late, which I don't expect it to be, it would be potentially 4 Infernal Drake, Infernal Soul for them. And I mean, they didn't even need that one, but they probably won't say no to this one either.
Yeah, I mean,
And now they're closing in on the end of the game. How will they set up the siege? Usually GAM is very consistent in these kind of situations. When they fumble, it's mostly through over-aggressive team fights or stuff like that. They're not really the team that gets caught off guard by side lane pushes or usually getting picked later on in the game. So I expect them to play this textbook style, go from tower to tower, go from lane to lane, and slowly chip away at the enemy base. Don't leave any opening for Team Wales to come back and get Dragon, get Baron, and finish this game in the next 10 minutes time. We're only 24 minutes into the game, so they're not even in a rush to prevent the enemy team from scaling or anything. The enemy team just barely sitting on 2 items each. I mean, the Renekton is actually really far away from 2 items for himself. So yeah, GAM, very comfortable. They don't have to rush. They can play this slowly and play high percentage League of Legends to win this game.
Yeah, I completely agree. They can just... There's just no need to do very much. They've got this Zeri, they've got this scaling. And I think GAM is just looking to add another one to the trophy case.
Yeah, Team Wales really just need a miracle, but here they get engaged on, I think. The Nature's Grasp is coming out.
2 people on Kiaya. Kiaya's running away, but he's down on the other side. They have the tower, but now 5v4 on the map.
Picked up a kill. B&J has a good flank as well. Sparta in the Dominus. They might be able to find something. B&J, can you find a way in? Levi picked off early, taking so much damage. Does go down to Glory. Slater is scary, but there's only 2 members of GAM left. This could be the throw. This could be the turnaround. The GA is popped. Slater will be cleaned up momentarily. They give the kill over to Artemis. That's a lot of gold to him, and Wales might just be alive.
Did I just curse them to death? Did I just curse them for the rest of the game? I thought GAM was going to play this so well. They've shown it so many times how they can close out games, but apparently not today.
Yeah, not today. Kiaya getting caught. He still has his flash up, so he wasn't really expecting much of consequence to follow on this one. And this actually is now Team Wales going for some bounties, as we see here in the replay again. Cassandra falling down means there's surprisingly little frontline on the side of GAM, right? They still have the support Braum and a Maokai, who also built like half offensively, so he isn't really that much of a protection. And Glory is still looking strong, like going for 1 kill, going for another one with the unleashed power, and his power was absolutely unleashed in this play. And with the frontline falling down, it is just, the bot lane of GAM staring down, some very angry Whales. This is definitely something that you still need to respect, even if you are 10,000 gold up. And now, speaking of this 10,000 gold, it's all of a sudden down to 7,000, and Wales look like they are not quite done yet.
Yeah, and we've been praising Kiaya for the last 3 games, and even in this game he has had a good performance for the most part. But getting caught out there in the mid lane, he thought he was safe, he thought he could escape using his ultimate and isolating whatever adversaries came his way. Not the case with finally some good Kai'Sa play, following up on with some assassinations, using the pick tools that Kai'Sa has over any other ADC. And we finally see what we wanted to see at the start of the series, more of that individualistic Kai'Sa setup for the teams. They're still on the back foot, but look at the items coming in for Artemis. 3.5 now done. He's getting closer to being able to carry. He still has to perform insanely well in team fights, but he's slowly but surely getting there.
Slowly, slowly, slowly. Wales has a long way left to go.
And
But
I
they
just gotta
still
say,
can see the path.
regardless of the result, I think Team Wales can be happy with what they really did as a job today. I mean, they were the underdog anyway. They have to play with substitute, and they won 1 game. They had a close game 2. Game 3 wasn't that close, admittedly,
Yeah.
but this one is looking somewhat decent the longer it goes. And GAM, I mean, they look like the huge favorites regardless, and they probably will end up winning this game. But even if not, Team Wales definitely has a showing today that they can be proud of.
I
Yeah,
agree.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead your way.
Yeah, I think objectively, as a fan looking at this, or even as the coach, you can say, yeah, for sure, we were the underdogs. We definitely made the enemy team sweat, made them fight for it. But if you look at the individual players, we have Artemis. He does not want to lose yet again against GAM. We have Glory finally in the final. He wants to stamp his authority on this league. He wants to show everyone he's the best mid lane. And we have B&J. How many times has he lost against Levi at the final hurdle? He wants to get this one. And here we go again.
We have another engage coming in. It's a decent start for Wales as they chunk Slater down, but they need to be able to actually finish someone off. Sparta now joining the fight. The first kill does go the way of Glory, but it's answered back, and that's Artemis down. Sparta trying to do it all in the front line, but he just gets melted. Glory too low to continue the fight, and it's a double kill for Slater.
And this was a very huge fight for the side of GAM, of course. I mean, it didn't really start off well for the side of Wales anyway, with the late TP, but it's not over yet.
CBL, I don't even think you want that, as now Glory exhausted up, but they can't quite find the follow.
Dragon is up. That's the easy thing to take. They weren't quite ballsy enough to go for the Baron. A little too scared about the Syndra steal potential, maybe. So Baron is still on the map. This is only 3rd Dragon, yes. Every single dragon makes them stronger. Every single dragon is scary to fight against with all that damage, with all the poke coming in. But then again, it is only one dragon. It's not the soul. So Team Wales, there's one more team fight to be had. Yes, they lost the last one, but they won the one before that. So hopefully they can show us a little bit more about how they team fight. They've essentially just wrestled themselves into this final. Just team fight in all the series we've seen so far. And this one was not quite the one that brought them to game 5.
Yeah, it absolutely wasn't. And Wales, of course, still behind in this fight. Glory still able to kill one member, but that's the point. But he can kill one member. And then, yeah, just delayed a bit with the Scatter of the Week combinations on the Syndra. But other than that, he doesn't really provide much. He gets down Cardi, but still in the fair 5v5 or 4v4 situations, Slater can still do much more on the Zeri than Artemis can do on the Kai'Sa. And now Wales fanting the chance as a desperation Baron. I can't really fault them too much, but they will probably get aced here, but they have to try something.
BJ going in, Artemis following up, and they immediately murder Slater. Kiaya on the backside trying to get it all done. It needs to be Artemis going huge. He goes gold. Can they peel for him? Just for the moment, they can. Double kill, picked up Bakati, but he will go down on the other side. 2v2. Artemis desperately trying to find some lifesteal as BJ surfs on out of there. He can't kite Levi, but Levi did use his cooldowns. Artemis on 1 health, trying to dance around, but he just doesn't have the moves. And BJ will futilely flail and finally fall.
Yes, but it doesn't actually do much for GAM because they can't take the Baron now. So even though it's yet another teamfight victory, it is also yet a little bit more time for Team Wales to extend the game to get another look at a better teamfight. What an engage from BJ here. Quincy, take it away.
Yeah, and I can't really fault Team Wales too much for this fight. They had to try something, go for the Baron, and then just in a very antsy moment, just try to go for the turn. And Adams actually gets Ki. They also got Slater very early on. So DPS-wise, this fight is actually playable for them. And here, he just nearly missed out this Void Seeker, so it takes a bit longer to really take down Kati. If this one hits, it's actually just smarter surviving for a decent chunk longer as well. I just gotta say, I disagree with Carrick's a little bit. Adams actually had the moves, he just didn't have the HP for this one. Fighting this one with like 20 HP or whatever he had, he just dies to someone looking at him funny. So it ends up being an objectively not well resulting fight for the sort of Team Wales, but them just going for this one is something that they actually had to do. So it was 5 for 3 for the side of GAM. They actually ended up securing the Baron just now as well for their side. So this one will probably translate for the Quadra, Infernal Drake, Infernal Soul for them. Wales, however, I respect them for trying, but ultimately GAM just, gets to be the victor of this one as well, as we are used in VCS times.
If GAM closes out this game and the series, how many times is Artemis gonna look back at this game and tell himself, if I had one lifesteal item, we could have won that fight? Because he had time to hit those minions in the mid lane. If he has any lifesteal, he gets back to full HP, he kills the tanks, they can probably take the Baron. Unfortunately, he had absolutely nothing behind himself. He didn't heal for 1 health of those minions, so in the end gets hit by 1 ability from Levi and dies. Super close fight, but in the end GAM with another Baron, and the goal doesn't really matter at this point, 66 to 55. We have all the important items already here. What does matter is Artemis doesn't have the stopwatch for the next fight.
Yeah, neither does Levi. I don't know if anyone caught that. Levi just fat fingered his stopwatch. He just fat fingered his stopwatch.
So that does mean that Team Wales in this situation still may make the king like a little bit nervous. That's at least some takeaway of this one, that they have to drop this inner turret, of course, and that's like some sort of progression, right? They just don't overextend on dying turrets anymore. But now GAM can continue, of course, their siege. Wave clear is not that good on the side of Team Wales, but it's also not too shabby either.
Looking for a way in, doesn't quite find it, but they do clear the wave. Buys them a little bit of time.
So much poke damage from the Jace now finally. After a very quiet game for Carty for the most part, he is scaled into a formidable beast, and it's Glory who's taking all those shock blasts. And he has to constantly go back to base to heal up, so it's gonna be a war of attrition. It seems like GAM is winning at this instance here.
BJ, again, looking at the flank. There's a Scat of the Week onto 2. They get the Glacial Fissure, and once again, they clear the wave.
And as I just now noticed, Artemis picked up his Guardian Angel, so for a potential fight he would have a little bit of a second chance, and him still not having a little bit of lifesteal is definitely detrimental to them, because Artemis is in this rough situation where he has the AD carry, just has to do everything at once, right? He has to be very high damage intensive, but also somehow being able to sustain himself up, and he just can't have both at this point of the game right now. He would need to be absolutely full build. He's on 4 items right now, and GAM might just force the Infernal Soul right here, or just force Team Wales into a bad fight.
Yeah, Team Wales realizes they can't beat the Infernal Soul, so they have to fight. They have to fight hard. Can they find a way in? We got to keep our eye on BJ. He's found some excellent lightning engages, but they need so much from him. Dragon is pulled, about half health. In goes CBL. There's the Maokai ultimate onto several members of Team Wales. Team Wales have not found the lightning start to this fight that they need. BJ desperately trying to turn it around. Into the GA goes one. Can they actually find anything more? Artemis not really dealing enough damage. It has been zoned out. They're just falling away. Levi and the rest of GAM able to clean this one up. Kiaya going absolutely massive on the Cassante, but it doesn't matter because Artemis has survived. He gets back up after the GA, and Levi, the only man left alive against 3 members of Team Wales. They win the fight. They get the ace.
They don't have a wave, they can't finish the game. They were looking at the rest of the map, seeing if they have any opportunity, because can they win another fight in this series? No one knows, but they can't go for the end. So in the end, it's just the Dragon and a lot of shutdown gold. But the inhibitor went down in the mid lane in the meantime, so it's an objective trade. It's still, and GAM still with a much better map position. But that is a huge fight winner. This is gonna instill some doubt in the minds of GAM.
Yeah, and this was a surprisingly well-played fight by the side of Sparta, I just gotta say. He was definitely an absolute beast on the Renekton in this situation. As here we see Glowy landing on huge scalar recombination. But here, BJ started the initial engage with the well crash down into Magnet Storm. And then Glowy and Artemis tried to fight this fight out. Actually, Artemis not really doing that much damage in this situation, as Slater falls up pretty quickly. This is the deciding factor, because now the DPS fight is actually somewhat close. Despite Team Wales being so far behind, they get Artemis here on the side of GAM, but Artemis had the Guardian Angel, so he gets a second chance in this fight, and Sparta right now buying some time for the Guardian Angel on this side, and here on the Renekton actually dealing a lot of AoE damage also in isolation. The Ikafian Rain really hammering down on Kiaya, and somehow Artemis survives here. So in the 3 versus 1, they can also kill Levi. And if you can win fights from this far behind, get 1 more Infernal Break, buy 5 more minutes of your time, Team Wales is still having a shot here.
There is one thing to keep in mind, is that Artemis will not have the safety net of his GA next time. That will almost certainly be on cooldown the next time these two teams clash, with Baron spawning in 30 seconds.
Neither will Slader's, right? Because he went into J very early in the fight, and they were able to double down. But if Slader goes down instantly, they can actually reposition themselves, and the fight is much easier for them to play out. So they had to kind of overextend into the Dragon Pit to kill Slader, make sure that Slader goes down. They don't have to do that in the next fight. And yes, Artemis doesn't have the safety net of the GA either, but there's a GA now in Sparta, and we saw how much AoE damage he dealt, so maybe he can be the difference maker now. Zonya's also built up for glory, so he can buy quite some time. This is getting closer and closer in the team fights, and if Artemis keeps on kiting, and if especially BJ keeps on finding those 3-4 man crashes, I think Wales has a shot to make it 5 games yet again.
Yeah,
Artemis is playing. Artemis is having an electric game. He's playing so well.
There were still bounties on the map. But what the hell is this game? Either way, Glowy is almost full bit. We need to iterate this as well. So if it goes longer, he would have a death cap as well and could kill anyone.
CBL takes some damage. BJ is low. Wales has to surrender their position.
Baron.
This could be GAM Baron.
GAM has a really quick Baron now at this stage in the game. So much damage, but they want the fight, and that's a good decision because BJ is low.
Yeah, and they catch only CBL with the Maokai ult, able to flash away, doesn't quite die to the shock blast, but he might not matter because he's essentially dead in terms of the fight, and he goes down to Slater, who can get things rolling. Artemis in so much trouble. Artemis trying his absolute best, but Kiaya puts him in the dirt. Sparta in the backside, trying to just clear the wave, and we saw one miracle fight, but you can't get 2 as GAM clean them up. They just need their wave to approach. We are moments away from GAM locking in another VCS split, putting their name on that trophy once more, as they are truly the kings of Vietnam. Wales put up a valiant effort, but no one can dethrone the kings. And Kiaya and Levi will once again prove that they are the top jungle duo that cannot be stopped.
One well finish for the side of GAM. They just win this war of attrition. They just immediately reward themselves, go for the fight. BJ cannot get out of there, and this is GAM, celebrating their next title. Wales, as you said before, as we all said before, putting in a good fight this time, especially with B not being around, with CBL playing, him basically coming away out of a split where he didn't play a single game before and only played 4 games in total in this year, and they still put up such a fight. It's definitely something where we can give some credit to Wales as well, but GAM, of course, still being the go-to team of the VCS and also the best team of the summer split.
I believe that's 8 titles now for Levi. 2 ahead of Slay, the all-time great, and of course Carti's just trailing 1 behind, and they're on the same team, so Carti can't overtake Levi ever. What a lineup, what a consistently performing top side. It's so insane how they win this league over and over again. Their bot lane changes, but the top side stays the same, and it's just the top side that wins all the VCS titles. Look at this beautiful trophy, and once again, it's in GAM's sense, they're gonna be the highest seed for Worlds. Not much is separating them from Wales, and Wales is gonna be our second representatives. They can definitely walk away with their heads held high. First ever final for this organization, new super team, and they had to rely on a substitute support who hadn't played as a starter all year, and that's quite a commendable performance if you consider that. B is hopefully going to be back for Worlds, and then Wales can attack again.
Yeah, they hopefully can. And with B back in the lineup and them just playing like they did, for example, in the game they won, or the first half of the second game basically, and also like some later stages of this game we just now witnessed, I think that of course also Team Wales can make some noise at the World Championship, at least like take a game or 2 of like one of the other minor region teams. Should be something within the realms of possibilities. And for GAM, I mean, we have some higher expectations, right? I mean, we saw them defeat top esports once last Worlds, and that ultimately made it so that they would be eliminated before the quarterfinals even started. Of course, GAM is an outlier, we know it. In general, however, they can take some games of the bigger teams, and maybe we will see this one again at this World Championship as well.
Look at how happy all these players and coaches are. Even Zin is back on the stage, which makes me really happy because I feel like the VCS and GAM is kind of throwing him under the bus. Maybe he wasn't the best support, but he was a solid player, and he's gonna be listed as one of the champions as well. He's still on the team. Hopefully he can get to Worlds and assist his team and make them even stronger, but it's all about the 5 players. They have assembled another super team with Slater and with Palette on the team. This is one of the strongest GAM lineups, individual player-wise, that we've seen in a while.
Absolutely. This is incredibly dominant. It's getting to the sort of the dominant points that we do see in other regions. It hasn't quite gotten there, but you know, the old Flash Wolves that just always won in the Taiwanese region, DFM over in Japan. These teams that are just juggernauts that just seemingly never stop. It doesn't matter what's thrown up against them. We looked at this Team Wales lineup and we said, hey, this could be the team that does it. But GAM just says no. GAM just does not care. And of course, it helps that they got the shot in the arm late in the split of Palette. Being able to pick up Palette, go back to that Palette Slater bot lane, and he had a fantastic performance today, and they add another trophy to the case.
And I cannot really even count how many trophies they already got in the VCS. Like, it's just getting so much right now. I'm not sure if the players even themselves can really do it. I mean, maybe one of you 2 guys can really clue me in on this one.
They've won every split except Winter Split, which doesn't really count, since at least 2021.
Yeah, they have 17. They have both so 2017 2 trophies, 2019 summer, that's 3, then 2021 spring, then 2022 spring, 2022 summer, and now 2023 both splits. So that's 8 VCS titles, and all 8 of those while Levi was on the team, because he left the team after 2017, and when he came back in 2019, it was the split, they returned to the top. So Levi is synonymous with GAM, synonymous with VCS domination. We have to give him the credit. He sometimes nowadays has some questionable games, some decisions in that Lilia game after an incredible early game. Just to point that out again, he was 8-1. Then he kind of lost his mind, and Wales punished him for it. But still, this player has 8 titles. He has won everything so many times and gotten to the final every single split he's played since 2019. Actually, I think every split he's ever played in the VCS, he's gotten to the final. That is one of the most incredible resumes of domestic players of all time. That is just a level of dominance that is unparalleled.
Yeah, it is completely unbelievable. But that does bring another split to a conclusion. It's always a bit melancholy after the finals, after we watch GAM lift a trophy, because we have to say goodbye for now. We do have Worlds in about a month, and those will be our 2 teams representing Vietnam. Of course, we send them nothing but best wishes as they head over to South Korea to do us proud, and I'm sure they will. Princey, I'll go to you first. Do you have any final words for the split?
Yeah, just one final word, basically. I told you so. I have a 100% prediction win rate this split, of course. I mean, at the 3-1, it was a 3-1. And just need to reiterate what I said before, right? Team Wales, good showing for the substitution situation as well, for being the underdog in general. And GAM, yet again, I mean, they just reward themselves every split over and over again. And Levi is just the GOAT of VCS.
Your way?
We expect GAM to win. We've seen it happen so many times, but there were quite a few chips on their shoulders because after that MSI performance, everyone was doubting them. Team Wales coming in as the new super team trying to dethrone them. Then all the stuff that happened with the league that we will not talk about early on, and still GAM comes out ahead, comes out as the best team of the VCS. And now they got their homework done. The part that they had to do, they succeeded. And now it's the bonus. Can they redeem themselves against all the other teams at Worlds? We are going to look ahead and just wonder at how GAM is going to do. Some Worlds, they've looked amazing. Some Worlds, they've underperformed. MSI was a huge disappointment, and we are all hoping that they can do much better this time around in just about 31 days.
We'll have to see if they can torpedo another major region's hopes. We will see. But from all of us here at VCS English, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you so much for supporting us and all of the players and the teams. We love you guys. We are so happy to bring this amazing league to all of you. We hope we can keep doing it. If you do want to support us, there are some links in chat you can click on. Join our Discord, follow our Twitter, and even chuck us a donation if you feel like it. But with that, we will say good night.